Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is Dr. Chuck Kennedy, author of The Power of Psi. He's a founder of the Project Psi, where they study psychics and their abilities, mapping their brain. He's a neuroscientist who is retired now and has been studying this and a ghost hunter for 50 years. So he's got a lot of experience that I know he's tested. A couple of friends of mine, I saw, Katrina Cooper first. That's where I first heard about him from. She's a psychic medium I totally recommend. And he studied her. And then another friend I just saw recently, Jennifer Malik. You remember Kevin and Jen? Jennifer Malik, as we know, is a medium, and I guess he tested her too. I think this is the Chicago Ghost Conference or whatever they had that going on. I should have been at. I didn't get to go to. But yeah, this is one of we just had the psychic development night last Sunday. And so, fresh off of that, I'm really interested to probe his mind. I mean, what is it in the brain that's happening when people are using this ability, and what can we do to enhance it? He's also helped solve missing persons cases with his group, his Project Psi, and cold cases. So we're gonna get into that. He's investigated a number of haunted locations, not far from me, actually. I think he's in Illinois, so it'll be interesting to talk about. And of course, we have the World Wide Web of Weird. We got a lot of weird to get to. Actually, there's so much I didn't know what I should actually put in the World Wide Web of Weird because there's too much. And then we'll have the phone lines open after the second commercial break. Call in if you want to ask Chuck, Dr. Kennedy, Chuck, maybe we'll see what he wants to be called, a question about how to develop your own abilities. Maybe he's got some great advice for you, or you want to tell us about your own psychic experience. Call in tonight. The phone lines will be open after the second commercial break, and I'll give those phone numbers out. But let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Our guest, Dr. Chuck Kennedy, will join us after our new segment, The World Wide Web of Weird. Rob, I'm going to have to run it because he texted us that he's running late. I think he was at a gig or something. But so maybe he'll jump in here and take over for me. But I will have to run The World Wide Web of Weird tonight. We know how that goes. So hang in there. But there's some good stuff. Hopefully, it'll make up for how I boondoggle it as I go through it. But there's a lot of weird stuff. I had to totally decide what I was going to do. I always do 7 articles, and there was a lot more than that. So, all right. When joining us every Sunday night is my co-host Jamie D. How you do tonight, Jamie? Busy in the chat room.
I'm doing well, thank you. And as always, I'm really super excited about tonight's topic.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I got the book, Chuck, I was like, I cannot wait to have him. I should say Dr. Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy. But as soon as I got Dr. Kennedy booked, I was so excited to have him on because this is something that I'm personally for myself always been interested with my experiences of developing my own abilities, and more recently had. I'll just shout out tonight. Next Sunday night will be our Halloween show, and will be episode 200. 200, Jamie. 200 episodes next Sunday for our Halloween show, October 27th. And we had such fun doing the Psychic Development Night. It's not going to be Psychic Development Night Halloween show, but we are going to still play some psychic games. I might do some tarot readings, and we'll do live ITC, open lines. We're just going to have all kinds of fun, Halloween party fun doing that stuff. And I want to read a couple people. I'll try tarot again. We'll see how that goes. But we got a lot to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird. So speaking of that, let's roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd do one kind of close to home. It's from Chicago Sun-Times. Property where John Wayne Gacy killed most of his victims is on the market. I thought it was fitting to start with this because last week we were talking about the real estate agency that was doing paranormal investigations to clear homes of any possible ghosts. Well, this home is brand, not that old of a home. It's a $430,000 home in near Chicago, but it's on the property where they found the 33 victims of John Wayne Gacy. For those listening on our Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup radio network, we also are a webcast. You can watch the videos. And I got some videos tonight. I just got to get my share screen up here. There we go. All right. Get my share screen up because I got to run it. All right. We'll see if Rob drops it. This is the home. It's a beautiful home. I got the address up, I guess, 8215 West Summerdale Ave. I'm sure the real estate people love that, but they put it out there, realtor.com. You can find it. It's in Norwood Park Township. Gacy's 33 victims, 29 bodies were found there, buried in his home, which has since been torn down. The house built in the place now for sale. I know they never found all of his victims. That's right. They're still wondering where some of them were. He was burying them in the crawl space. I mean, the amount of bodies he ended up packing in there is crazy. And then he did start burying them out in the yard when he ran out of room. But he was a monster. I don't know. Jamie, would you live in a house that was on top of a foundation where all these bodies were once found? A serial killer was?
I just might.
I would love to investigate it. I don't want to live in it. I don't think I want to live in it.
There is a slightly twisted side of me, I think, that would be curious.
Well, it's $459,000. It was built after Gacy's brick ranch was torn down in 1979, a good year. As investigators searched for bodies in 1986, once the new home was built, its address changed from 8213 West Summerdale Ave to 8215 and unincorporated Northwood Park Township. I bet the house isn't totally on the exact spot either. They probably catty-cornered or did something. Who knows? The last time the 2,500 square foot home was sold, it was in 2004 for $300,000. The other thing is I'm wondering if Zach Baggins is going to drop in on this one because he just was talking about buying John Wayne Gacy's brain. Like, really, dude? I understand buying haunted objects and haunted homes. And, I get that. But, like, he's bought Ted Bundy's glasses, and now he's talking about John Wayne Gacy's brains. There's nothing paranormal there. And it's just, these were sick, sadistic, narcissistic people who would love to know that their brain was in some museum. I think they would love it. I think John Wayne Gacy would love it. I think Ted Bundy probably would love knowing that his glasses are on display in his haunted museum. I just, those guys were scum.
It gives notoriety to them.
Yeah, they're scum. I have a fascination with serial killers with the darkness of how humankind can be so evil, but I have no interest in owning anything. Yeah, if I had a ton of money, I'd buy some haunted stuff. I probably would. But I would not be buying serial killer paraphernalia. I just wouldn't. I have no interest. They were scum. I'd throw John Wayne Gacy's brain in the garbage.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, let's move on. All right, so this is going to be a video here. I don't think I'll have the sound on it. There is a little bit of sound to it, but I have to like turn that up and it makes it echo. This is super viral. Before I let it go here, maybe I will get the sound. Remember, Jamie, it'll echo if you talk when I do it. Just remember that. But creepy haunted doll filmed moving on its own. A World War II era ventriloquist doll has been filmed moving its eyes and its mouth in the middle of the night. Known as Mr. Fritz, that's a creepy name in itself. The creepy doll was recently acquired by a 48-year-old collector, Michael Diamond, from Liverpool, who received it as a gift from a local militaria collector back in July. Little was known about its history other than that it was made by a U.S. prisoner of war in 1940s. In the footage, which is filmed in the early morning hours, the doll cabinet creaks open and its eyes and mouth can be seen slowly opening and closing. All right, I'll let you watch it and then I'll give my Jason verdict. All right, I'm going to turn up the volume. Hold on. Oh, maybe. There we go. All right. See the mouth, the eyes move. You see the strings moving down below its neck because that's what make it move. And its lips move again. I can't see the chat room right now. I'd love to know what people think of this. The film, this clip was filmed by spook collector Michael Diamond, says on the video for people listening. For people listening, you can't see it, obviously, so it's not that spectacular to you. But the echo's down, so you can talk, Jamie. But I have to say, I can't call anything out that I can immediately say it's fake. I'm sure somebody might. But I feel big time shenanigans are going on here. I don't know. I can't see anything that I could per se say that it's fake, except that, you can hide strings, you can hide stuff. There's ways of doing it. I mean, I don't think it's any video editing. I think fishing line strings you can't see so well at the right angles.
I call shenanigans. I can't figure it out either, but it doesn't seem
maybe it's
real
not.
to me.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it is the real deal. I don't know. He said he did this because he would find the cabinet door open. So he put his little GoPro up and to record it. That makes sense. I mean, if that's what was happening, he'd wake up and find the same. But now he wants to get rid of it. He says he creeps out his family. So how much you want to bet this can go for some money on eBay? See, that's why I don't trust it.
That's what I was just going to say. How much is he going to let go of it for?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you really don't want it, I'm sure Zach Baggins will take it for free right off your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just donate it to him. He'll take it. I mean, it's taking John Wayne Gacy's brain. I mean, I'm sure he wants a talking ventriloquist doll named Fritz. It is super creepy, but I don't know. And it just the whole story, the provenance of it doesn't sound right. Like, why would this guy have? I don't know. Okay, this next one's pretty creepy. I can't wait to see. This reminds me of The Shining. With all the blood. This is a blood fills Iowa family's basement. This comes from the KTIV.com. What sounds like a scene from a horror film is in reality for Listina family in Bagley, Iowa. Nick Listina and his family of 7 were getting ready to put their house on the market until their basement was flooded with animal blood. Their basement was filled with nearly 5 inches of animal blood, fat, and bones as a result of a drainage issue from a meat locker next door. For the last 10 years, the family has lived next door to Dow's Meat Locker, but have never had any problems until recently. Listina said his neighbors were dumping hog and cattle remains down a floor drain, which is connected to his pipes. He immediately reported the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. I'm sure, you don't sit around like, I'll call in this flooded blood basement a little bit. I don't know. No, I'm sure it's a media thing, which he confirmed the substance as animal blood, fat, and bones. They got the Department of Health involved due to its hazards. Yeah, no kidding. Imagine the flies. The DNR said the meat processor has been cooperating with the investigation. However, Listina says Dow's so far has not been a good neighbor in this situation. They haven't reached out at all. And you think they would. You think said some flowers, hey, our bad. are bad, man. They haven't reached out at all. In fact, they haven't taken any accountability for it, said Listina. They say it's not their fault and told me good luck. Really? If I want to do anything about it, it's on my dime and my schedule. Wow. Time to get some lawyers, buddy. But the owners of Dallas Custom Meat Locker have contacted me to say that they were working with their insurance company to take care of reimbursing the Latina family. Yeah, you know you're going to have to pay out. Many of Lastina's family's belongings were destroyed by the blood in the basement, including a bed that they were saving for their toddler's son. It takes psychological damage, too. I don't know. Sounds pretty gross. All right, let's move on. All right, number 4. This one I'm going to have audio on again, Jamie, just so you know, unless Rob is back. It's much better when Rob's here. Nope, he's not. Okay. It's not Rob's fault. He tries. Okay, so I know a lot of people saw this, but that's not the article. Well, that is a bunch of... I don't have the article. They changed it. Let me see. Let me try it again. Try to reload again. Oh, here we go. Dead man gets a last laugh. And maybe a lot of you probably seen this, but I still had to play because I thought this was pretty hilarious. Dead man gets a last laugh at his funeral with an unexpected prank. He wanted to make sure my mom would be laughing, leaving the cemetery and not crying, his daughter told the Huffington Post. A man in Dublin, Ireland decided to inject a little humor to his funeral Saturday by playing a prank on his loved ones. Shay Bradley, a Defense Force veteran who died October 8th after losing an illness bravely born, according to his obituary, shocked and delighted funeral goers when they suddenly heard his voice shouting from his coffin. It was being lowered in the ground. Okay, I'll go ahead and play it there. Okay, word of warning, I'm not on terrestrial radio anymore, so I can get away with this. There's a couple bleeps words in there that aren't bleeped out. So, but you really hardly hear it because it's muffled in a coffin. This guy pre-recorded this, obviously. Yeah, unmute it would help. Hold on.
Hello? 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 Let me out! Where the fuck am I? Hello? Hello? Let me out! The fucking bag in here! Where the fuck am I? I got that police I can hear! Let me out! Hello? Hello? Stop the mask! Stop, I can hear you! Hello? Hello? Please! Hello? You someone? Hello? This is shaming. I'm in the box. No, I'm fucking front.
All right, it starts to get bad. We got to cut it there. But I loved it. Funerals are sad, and this guy didn't want his funeral to be sad. So what better way than and that goes off there. What better way than doing something like that? That was really awesome. Andrea Bray posted the video of her dad's stunt to Facebook on Sunday. A Twitter user who wanted to remain anonymous said they stumbled upon the video on WhatsApp, and that same day decided to share it on Twitter. It went super, super viral. I mean, you've seen it everywhere. She added that the joke was her dad's way of saying not only goodbye, but also say, okay, sadness is over. Now we're here to laugh. So you can go and celebrate my life with a smile on your face. The prank was 1 in a million, just like my dad, she added. I thought that was a really cool story. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time here. All right, number 5. Okay, so me and my wife, we've been talking about this. I saw this article, some popular mechanics, $125,000? Just donate your face to some humanoid robots. Yes, you can donate your face. Need a pile of cash fast? Have a face? Then step right up to waive the copyrights to it. In exchange, you'll receive about $125,000. And best of all, one day you'll see your mug on an army of humanoid robots. Geomic, Geomiq, an additive manufacturing and machine startup based in London, is looking for a person to fork over their face for a new line of human-looking robots. The star search came through a blog post that company published earlier this month. Geomic isn't, I don't know how you say it, Geomic isn't the brains behind the operation, according to the post, but will be working on behalf of a mysterious client looking for a kind and friendly face for its robot. I have a kind and friendly face. A few weeks ago, we were approached by a robotics company asked if we could help it with finishing touches of a state-of-the-art human robot it's been working on. Details of projects are scarce due to a non-disclosure agreement we've signed with the designer and his investors, but this is what we do now. While the details are tight under wraps, we do know there's a potential for a side face to be mass-produced on thousands of robots. In terms of the client, little was disclosed outside the fact that the company is privately funded and has taken investments from venture capitalists and funded in Shanghai. So I don't know. Jamie, would you sell your face for 125K? See a bunch of robots walking around looking like you? I might. Nope. I might. You know, because if the robot apocalypse comes and there's a bunch of Terminators walking around that look like my face, I'm going to blend right in. And it'll be my face saying, I told you so. I told you so. That's what it'll be. My Terminator robots with my face running around saying, I told you the AI Terminator thing was coming.
The first thing you have to think is how it could hurt you. Now, what if that robot was out committing crimes or doing crazy stuff and people were identifying it as you?
By then, if robots are going out committing crimes, we're screwed anyways. I mean, seriously, that's going on. We're screwed anyways. All right, we got another video here. This one doesn't have any audio, so I don't have the echo problem. Let me get this one up here. All right, because we're going to run out of time here. And this is Article 6. Oh, it does have it does have sound. We'll play it here in a second. Huge cigar-shaped object with spheres circling in it is seen over Baltimore. The witness claimed to see several of the cylinder-shaped objects in the sky for several hours. A strange craft shaped like a cylinder with spheres circling has apparently been caught on camera and hovering in the skies of Baltimore, Maryland. The footage begins with the cameraman exclaiming he's filming a UFO over Baltimore, which is huge. Huge. At first, it seems like the black object is circular, but it begins to move past the screen. Its true shape becomes apparent. According to the witness, a white sphere was going around the crane at the same time, but that isn't shown in the video. Yeah, I don't see that. He also said there were several several cylinder objects in the sky before he started recording. So there was a lot going on. He finally decided to start recording, but I don't think this is shenanigans. I don't know, but I think it could be, all this stuff he talks about doesn't sound like would be a blimp, but just the one clip of the video he has possibly could be a blimp. But if you saw all that other stuff, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was a blimp. All right, let me go ahead and play it. There is audio to this.
Huge. Line up in and around the clouds. I'm at the Key Bridge.
I'll mute it now because you can talk, Jamie, because this video goes on for a little bit. But he reported seeing this stuff like a week before, too. Like he had seen it a week before. So it's one of the reasons he came back. So is this guy a contactee, maybe? I don't know. But him and his mom both saw him more than once in the same area. But this time he finally recorded it. I don't know. I still possibly a blimp. It's, of course, a little black dot up blurry. And in the original video, it's a little better than this, of course. Of course, now the article shut down on me, darn it.
Well, maybe he'll see it a few more times and get some other types of video, and we can see different angles and such.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last one before. This is Jason going to get on his soapbox again. Yeah, I know. Because it takes me off. I keep seeing these articles for this. I see more and more companies doing this. And there's a new one. And this one was in Wisconsin. It's from usatoday.com. Talking Tech. Wisconsin workers embedded with microchips. I should have the picture. This guy, for people listening, there's a picture of a guy with a little tattoo artist that's putting the chip in. He's got a little smile on his face with his company shirt logo on it. Sporting I Got Chipped t-shirts, some 40 coworkers at 3 Square Market, a firm that makes cafeteria kiosks aimed at replacing vending machines, got tiny rice-sized microchips embedded in their hands. Company officials said it was for convenience, that's what they always say, as a way for them to bypass using company badges and corporate logins to computers. Now they can just wave their hands and be read by a reader, similar to using a smartphone to pay for goods. The company will like to see payments go cashless, as iPhone users do with Apple Pay, except that in this case, consumers use their hand instead of a smartphone to pay. The chip is not a tracker, nor does it have GPS in it, so the boss can't track your movements. There's one company was able to track your movements with theirs. Company officials say, still to those who worry about the big brother having more control of our lives, 3 Square Market President Patrick McCullen says you should take your cell phone and throw it away. Well, yeah, we give our data and all that stuff out, but that's our cell phone. That's our choice. I'm not comfortable with a company forcing or requiring you're not going to hire me unless you tag me like a freaking animal. We'll throw your cell phone away. Blah, 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 blah. And you know what? Screw you. I don't need you tagging me like you owe me. Okay. You're going to put a barcode on me too and give me a number, for your convenience because you don't want to issue ID tags. I'm sorry. We need a law that says no company can not hire you based on the fact you don't want to be tagged like an animal.
I agree.
And these dumb idiots are like, oh yeah, here, tag me. Or maybe they just want to keep their jobs, Well,
it started out a few years ago where they were putting these chips in people and they were getting paid on it. They would scan their hand like your chip on your, fast pay to make copies at work. There was like 10,000 people in this experiment worldwide for a while. And now it looks like they're getting to the point where they're forcing it upon people. There's no way in the world.
That's what's going to happen.
There's no way. I'm afraid of having surgery because I don't want one of those little things, to put into an incision. You just don't know it's there. I feel like they're going to want all of us to have that. We're going to be born with chips.
Linda in the chat room. Gattaca. If you've never seen the movie Gattaca, go see it. It has nothing to do with chips, but the whole fact of how employers don't hire you because you're not genetically bred, because you're a risk because you have a 56% chance of having a heart attack at the age of 80 or something like that, or Gen X or at the age of 45 or something like that, and then we're not going to hire you. You're a risk. You're not going to go. It's a great movie, but that's another big fear. I mean, when you need worry about chips about being discriminated, it'll be your own genetics and DNA they'll discriminate you on. Much to be fear and loathing for the future of technology. But here I am talking about selling my face for robots. Well, like I said, and the world comes, you see my face. See this face? Yeah, it'll be a big I told you so, and I got my 125K. That's it for the Worldwide but Weird. Tonight's guest, Dr. Chuck Kennedy, Project Psi. We're going to talk about his experiments with psychics and his investigations, a paranormal investigator. And we'll have the phone lines open. Second commercial break, not the first. We got a lot to talk with Dr. Kennedy tonight, and I'm so excited to have him. But don't forget, check us out on Patreon, $2 a month. You get exclusive access. I'm going to actually add an advertising segment too. If you want to advertise during commercial breaks, I'm going to have a little segment thing up there for Patreon too. We can do. I'll get more information on that. And still working on adding stuff to the podcast. I will be here soon. I've been working on it, editing it, so it should be up there soon. We'll have new content on there. But we will be back after the short commercial break.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
This fall, a new hard-hitting police drama is coming to Friday night. He was a well-to-do cop transferred to a troubled precinct downtown. His new partner is a space traveler with a passion for justice. It's Yuppie and the Alien.
Look, you might vaporize dissidents in Alpha Centauri, but in this precinct, we do it by the book.
I'm so terribly sorry, Captain.
Googa, I'm sorry.
Don't miss this one-of-a-kind police drama. They're fighting crime the hard way in designer clothes with $250,000 sports car and a UFO.
Partner, let's go cruise in the car and look moody.
One tough downtown precinct, two outsiders doing things their way. Yuppie and the Alien on VBC.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world, a world of darkness. Nobody expected it. Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it. The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist. Warner Brothers presents William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist, rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Bring life to the dead. 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 Enter the occult world of necromancy. You were brought here for one purpose: necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era is the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please, no.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Dr. Chuck Kennedy. Dr. Chuck Kennedy has been a ghost hunter for 50 years with a PhD in neuroscience researching consciousness pre and post mortem. His current program is Project Psi, where he monitors over 400 personal and biometrics as a subject connects with the afterlife. As an author, he's written 19 books on the healthcare and the paranormal. At Project Psi, he has a team of psychics and a team of forensic remote viewers. In the past 25 months, they have brought home 85 missing kids and closed 15 cold case murders. Project Psi teaches forensic remote viewing to locate missing persons and close criminal cases. Some of Dr. Kennedy's work has been featured on A&E, Bio Channel, and Good Morning Texas, WGN. He can be reached at projectpsi.com. He also has a phone number here. We'll see if he wants to give the phone number over here. I don't know. But this is something I wanted to tell you. We did the psychic development night last week. I'm totally interested in what is going on in our brains that you can quantify scientifically, measure, and that's what he's trying to do. When we're tapping into this realm, this information, I've had that experiment where I've gotten information I should not know. Where does that come from? Or what's firing in the brain that's making that happen? We're going to talk to Dr. Kennedy about that tonight, and we will have the phone lines open after the second commercial break. But this is one of my favorite subjects, and so let's go ahead and get rolling right into it. You there with me, Dr. Kennedy?
I am. How you doing?
How you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It really is. Listening to the bio you read, it's funny how quickly things change. Last week we hit a milestone. We brought home our 100th abducted child.
Wow.
And so that was a big deal. That was a real big deal for
bringing home one abducted child is a big deal, in my opinion, as a parent.
Actually, it is.
Yeah,
it really is. But we hit 100, and so I held a team meeting. We hold team meetings online because the team spreads from Toronto down the East Coast, across the Midwest, Houston, Vegas. And so we had this online team meeting, and I congratulated everyone for their hard work and their great effort. And I said, but now for the bad news. And they go, what's that? And I said, my goal for 2020 is to hit 200. And they all sighed.
Well, the sad thing is there's a lot of missing children.
There really is. There really is.
Yeah. And then there's the sex trafficking that's getting more pronounced. People are starting to actually take notice of it. So there's a lot of need for that. And that's what's sad.
That was a big part of what kicked up our numbers 2 weeks ago today. We've always had missing persons that when we get into the case, we'd find out it was human trafficking.
Yeah.
But a while back, we decided, aside from going after the missing children, that's fine. But what we were going to go after also is human traffickers. And we wanted to go after them. I wanted to hit them where they hunt, where they hide, and where they live. And we've busted up 3 different human trafficking rings in the last 2 months. So Lord knows how many kids were saved that way alone. But 2 weeks ago today, I remote viewed. We were tracking this one ring of human traffickers. And one of my viewers called me and said, I think they're at that warehouse. I just don't know where the warehouse is. So I remote viewed the warehouse. It was outside of a motel down in Texas City, and we remote viewed it. And here I could see the shipping container. It was a bright blue, white numbers on the side. And I called the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers are pretty good for working with us. So I called them, and they put an entry team together. By the time they got to the warehouse, it was about an hour and a half later. So the bad guys were gone, or actually the bad woman. We had been tracking her for 18 months. She was gone, but when they opened up the shipping container was waiting a flatbed to come pick it up and take it down the block to the harbor and load it onto a ship. And then it was going to leave port Monday afternoon. So anyway, they go and they raid the warehouse. They open up the shipping container, and there was 14 girls ages 9 to 15, all drugged up so that they wouldn't scream and holler and kick and everything.
And some of them would have died during that trip.
No, no two ways about it. And each one of these girls is worth $600,000 to the traffickers. So, needless to say, we've remote viewed our little leader who we've been following for 18 months, and she's in. We found her in a prairie in the hill country of Texas with 2 bullets in the back of her head.
She became a liability.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We disrupted her chain of operation too many times, so they got rid of her. And so now we got to find out who her replacement is, and we can take out that person.
Well,
but human trafficking is a big deal.
We can get into that tonight. There's a lot we can talk about that, but I want to get into how this all started for you, because you've been a ghost hunter for 50 years. So while you were doing your professional career, you were on the side going out and doing paranormal investigating. So how did all this start for you?
Well, I was a registered nurse since 75. I'd been in healthcare. And when I retired, the last 20 years, I was running hospices and long-term care facilities that were focused on dementia. And so I was very interested in dementia. And so about 10 years ago, I got my PhD in neuroscience. And then when I retired, I was doing ghost tours here in the Chicago area. And then I went down to Branson, Missouri, and I started a walking ghost tour in downtown Branson and did that for a couple of years. And while I was there, I met a psychic, and she was just amazing. Her and her husband would come to Branson about every 3 months, and they'd just show up on a Friday night, and I knew my weekend was up for grabs. And they would they'd hang out with me the whole weekend. And she'd just tell me things about myself that she's from Topeka, Kansas. I'm from Chicago. How the hell does she know these things?
Right.
And so I started wondering, that's a good question. How does she know these things? And so I wanted to, what I ideally wanted was a functional MRI to be able to see what's going on in the brain of a psychic or medium when they're doing their thing. And but nobody would loan me $1.7 million for an fMRI. And my building was 160 years old, and the magnet for a fMRI is 3 tons. And so that would have been problematic too. So I decided, how did we look at the human brain before we had PET scans and MRIs? And I decided, well, we always used EEG, and that worked out pretty well. So I went online, thanks to eBay. I bought an EEG machine, brand new, right in the box. Came about a week later.
On eBay?
All these, what's that?
On eBay.
On eBay, yeah. Well, you can get all kinds of legitimate stuff on eBay. So here's this EEG machine, a 16-lead EEG, and all the instructions were in Chinese.
That's why you got a deal on it, right?
Yeah. So, but thanks to the beauty of the internet, within about an hour, I was able to download the software I needed. It was in English, and other things I needed, and I had it up and running. And so I had my buddy, and I wired him up, and I thought, wow, your brain is really looking crazy. Why? And he goes, oh, I've been smoking weed all night.
Oh my God.
Thanks, buddy. But that was rather interesting in its own. But anyway, so then I started.
Well, you knew it worked, right? At least you know it's telling you something, right?
Exactly. The Dallas-Fort Worth area is very big on psychics and mediums. They have psychic fairs every month. So I go to a psychic fair, and I'm passing out cards that, hey, I'm doing a study on psychics. I need to pick your brain, literally. And so they would come on over, and I wire them up. And I start with baseline questions. What's 473 plus 987? And they look at me, and I can see their eyes crossing as they're trying to figure this out. And they'll give me some answer. And they go, is that right? And I go, I don't have any clue. It was never about the right answer. I wanted to see their brain working.
Right.
To see their frontal cortex kick in. And yeah, that worked out really well. And they would get mad at me because you don't know the right answer? Oh, hell no.
No, because it wasn't about that.
Yeah.
Just want to see what
And
they do
then
when
I'll
they
go,
think.
Yeah, exactly. And 10 words or less, because I didn't want them telling me a long story. 10 words or less. Tell me a memory from your childhood. And they'll go, oh, my 5th birthday party. And that's good. Now, see the area of the hippocampus get active. And I know they're pulling out a memory. And, okay, that's good. And then I'll say, okay, describe in 10 words or less the most emotional day of your life. And they'll either get real happy or they'll look like they're going to cry, and they'll pull up this emotional day. And I remind them, it's 10 words or less. Don't tell me a story. And they'll tell me about the day they got married or the day their mother died or whatever. And I see the limbic system real active. And okay, that's good. So that's emotions. We got logic, and we've got memories. Now, in 10 words or less, tell me a lie, any lie. And they go, oh, Dr. Chuck, you're so good looking. And okay, good lie. But I see their right singular gyrus come up. So I know they're making something up. And that's important. It's their imagination. So then, okay, now settle down, relax, close your eyes, breathe deep in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now, there's a couple of spirits in the room here. Can you communicate with any of these spirits? And I'll start talking to one of the spirits. And I'll see the lower left temporal lobe, which is like right behind the left ear. And I'll see that get active. And the first time I thought, wow, this is really interesting.
Right.
And then after about 30 of them, I'm going, wow, everybody's doing the same thing at all. Just like the lie from the right temporal area, their left lower temporal zone would light up for the psychic. And so I started calling that the region of Psi. And then I was doing past life regressions on people, and I'd hypnotize them.
Oh, wow.
And I'd wire them up, and we'd do past life regressions, and those are always fun. And I'd take them back to 1800s, 1700s, whatever. And but again, the region of Psi, when they're telling me their past life,
same area,
the same thing is lit up. And then there's also spirit attachment syndrome. There's a fair amount of not demonic attachments, but spirit attachments out there. And I'd go after the spirit attachment, and again, I'd say, okay, Jason, I'm not talking to you right now. I'd get you hypnotized. I'm not talking to you right now, Jason. I want to talk to that son of a bitch that's inside of you. Who's inside of you? I want to know who's inside. And then it'd be in your voice, but it'd be, I'm Thomas. And I'd see the same thing. This region of Psi would light up. And so after I had done well over 100 of these, I'm going, wow, this is just such a coincidence. Now, there were some people who thought they were psychic and weren't. And that's why the imagination was so important. They were lying to themselves. They had an active imagination, and they would see things, but it was their imagination.
Because it's a different part of the brain when they're using their imagination?
Exactly. Just like when they told me, oh, Dr. Chuck, you're good looking, I would see that part of the brain get active when they're telling me, oh, your grandmother is with you and blah, blah, blah. And I would see, once again, it's their imagination. But they're seeing these images, and they thought they were gifted, when in reality, they were just very imaginative. And I never told them that they weren't really gifted. I would let them, the whole thing, take care of itself. In about 6 months, they're wrong so often, nobody would come see them anymore, and it just took care of itself. But
I wouldn't want to say, you're not psychic to somebody.
You're kind of a fake, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to say that, because you're gonna have some drama with that for sure.
It's not going to end well in any way, shape, or form.
No. But that's really interesting that you could tell, you can see the area of the brain. So now let's go back to now the people that you do see this, that do have this ability, this part of the brain. Now, say what part of the brain is this again?
It's right behind the left ear. And most of the brain was taken into pieces that are in terms of functionality. And this was a Dr. Brodmann. I think it was around 1930. Anyway, Brodmann calls this area of the brain Brodmann 37, and he pretty much describes it as, I'm not sure what this area does. But
That's
he
what
wasn't
say.
into psychic stuff.
Yeah. So did we, there's a lot we don't know about the brain, it seems like, but,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but so they don't know what that area of the brain's for. They've never figured that part out.
But I figured it out.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like the Wi-Fi card in your computer. Your Wi-Fi card connects you to the internet, and this is the universe card, and it connects you to the universe. And it's right behind your left ear. Now, if you read Facebook a lot, you're going to believe that that third eye, that part of the brain that communicates, is the pineal gland. Well, at this point, I've done over 800 psychics and mediums, and well over a dozen of them have had their pineal gland removed. So they're still very gifted.
So it has nothing to do with the
amazing
pineal
psychics.
gland.
Exactly. And
that's really interesting, because you've heard that in every book, TV show, it talks, brings up the pineal gland, that is really interesting.
But that was pretty much in the 60s. That was part of a New Age movement.
Mm-hmm.
And they latched onto that, and they had no science to support it. And they had no way to prove one way or another. So they just went with it, and it became the accepted standard, and nobody knows why. And so now I've got over 800 EEGs that show it's not the pineal gland. And I've had psychics argue with me. No, I know it's my pineal gland. And I go, how do you know?
Did you cut your head open?
Yeah. I go, okay, so what part of your brain helps you raise your right hand? I don't know. What part of your brain makes you speak? I don't know. Well, how come you don't know what part of your brain does these other things, but you're positive what part of your brain is psychic?
Right.
Yeah.
See, you bring up what I found really interesting about this, is that, you're testing people, and you have the ones that, all of them believe they're psychic. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. Even I don't think you're getting people, the people that showed up. I can see another reason why you wouldn't want to say, hey, you're not psychic, because I don't think anybody was an actual fake or fraud would be like, I'm going to go get tested. I'm a fake, but I'm going to go get tested. I don't think they get tested. I think these people do believe they're psychic. This is where I think what happens, because, my personal experience, what made me a believer in psychic ability. I have had instances of seeing the future in dreams and stuff like that, but when you see people like on TV, or you hear about mediums like holding an object and getting this information and telling people, I always thought, it's just imagination. Well, I had it happen to me just out of chance by holding a picture of a deceased person. I talked about this last week. I've talked about it before in my show, but I hold a person that was deceased, didn't know their name or anything, but I blurted out their first name. And then when asked, like, why'd you say that? I'm like, that is his name. I'm like, I don't know. They're like, well, what's the last name? And then I got the last name, and it was this little voice in my head, but it was my voice. It's the same inner voice. It's my imagination, so I was like, but I was dead on. I even knew that he was an alcoholic. I knew that he hid stuff in the house and the owner ended up finding it 2 weeks later, or the war stuff I said was there. She found it. Well, it was the owner's girlfriend, actually. But I had all that information. I don't know if I could still decipher if that was just, my imagination or something real, but it was real. The evidence of it was real. But that's the thing. Some of these people that don't know they're not really psychic, they might have had some psychic experiences.
Exactly. It's possible.
They hit some stuff, they've hit some stuff because they keep doing it. And sometimes their imagination shuts off and they're actually tapping into it. But more often that's your imagination. And that's the part why I've never dwelled and tried to develop it further, because I'm afraid. It's like, I don't want to be wrong. And I can't tell the difference between my imagination and the information I got from holding this picture. It seems like just like my imagination would be.
And that's important. And I have more respect for you for saying you can't tell the difference than the people that tell me, oh, I'm a psychic and I'm never wrong. And
I could never do that. I could never say that.
Yeah. Well, and I tell them you clearly reached your fecal capacity, because all psychics are wrong at one time or another.
Otherwise, it'd be God.
Yeah. And I had so much fun this weekend. I was at the Chicago Paracon, and I had a sign on my table about a new study I'm conducting about the link between psychic ability and autoimmune diseases. And
Right.
We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was people would come up and they'd look at that and I go, are you psychic? And they go, well, a little. And I go, that's like being a little bit pregnant. It's a binary question. You either are or you aren't. You don't have to be psychic every moment of the day. And some people think that, well, if they're psychic, it's supposed to be 100% on. And every minute of the day, they're seeing things going, ships sinking and halfway around the world and things like that. But no, it doesn't work like that. And a lot of it is, how much and how effectively you utilize it and work with it. But there's no such thing as being, I'm a little bit psychic. No, that's like being a little bit pregnant. You're in for a surprise down the road.
I have a question from the chat room. Actually, I found really interesting because I mentioned before, I've had, and I still do. I have sometimes dreams that are like dead on specifically an event in the future. Sometimes it's mundane, stupid stuff. I don't understand why I would dream about something stupid, but I will. I get that deja vu feeling. Chandra in the chat room said, "Can he map the brain while sleeping, such as those who dream about the future events? Some psychics are totally depend on their dreams."
Here's a little thing about dreams, and listen to everything I say because I'm not putting them down.
Yeah,
I'm just explaining how they work. Most dreams occur during the deepest sleep, which is known as REM sleep. And if you watch your partner's eyes while they're in REM sleep, even though their eyes are closed, you'll see their eyeball going back and forth, rapid eye movement. Okay, that's when most dreams occur. But let's say you have a problem. You need to put a garden in your backyard, but you can't figure it out because the sidewalk cuts right through the middle, and you go to bed, you're going to sleep on it. You wake up in the morning and you figure it out. You're just going to put a string across from one side to the other and let the vines grow on it. And so you wake up and you go, see, sleeping on it, I dreamt the solution. No, wrong answer. As you were in the wake-up stage, you were in theta. And theta is like 4 to 8 hertz a second. And as you were waking up, you're in theta. Theta is the problem-solving state. It's a deep, deep relaxation. But you don't realize you're awake yet. You're technically awake, but you don't realize it because you're in the process of waking up. Theta is where all these things come to you. These are where you solve the world's problems. You see things. They aren't really the dreams that you had in REM, but they're the psychic ability that comes to you. When we do remote viewing, we try to get into theta before we go in for the remote viewing, because in theta you have the best visions and you can see anywhere that you need to solve these problems.
Well, I was watching recently a documentary. What was it? Third Eye Spies. Was talking about like Russell Targ.
Oh yeah, Third Eye Spies. Yeah.
Talking about the early research they were doing at was it SRI?
Stanford Research Institute. Yeah.
Stanford, and the military and the involvement in that. I mean, it sounds the way that our government tried to play it off is like, oh, there's nothing to it. You watch that, it's like, wow, they really would not want people to know what they were up to with it. And I wonder, is a fear of like, oh, if anybody can just do this, because that's what it seemed like. That's Russell Targ saying anybody can do this. That
they can.
That's a powerful weapon.
The guy that actually ran what they affectionately call Stargate, although it started out as Grill Flame once Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff got funding from the government, it was known as Grill Flame. And then it changed names throughout the years. But anyway, when it got shut down in 95, and they were kind of shocked that the Congress shut them down. And when a government project like that gets shut down, basically it's defunded. Congress won't pay for it anymore, so there's no money to do anything. And what happened is they then remote viewed Congress to find out why did Congress claimed they just weren't effective enough. And they had an 80% success rate at that point.
I mean, you see the evidence of these cases that they were able to talk about, and it's like, seems like they were pretty on.
Exactly. And 80% is pretty accurate. If you use the SWAG system, which is scientific wild ass guessing, the SWAG system is where we all just take a guess at something.
Right.
Guessing is about 24% accurate, according to Stanford University. So 80% is pretty successful, and Congress claimed, 80% isn't strong enough, so we're going to get rid of you guys. So they remote viewed Congress to find out why does Congress have a bug up their butt? What do they want to hide? And the reality was Congress was scared to death that Stargate would remote view them and see how corrupt they were.
I do have this question from Holly. Deb's question from Sarah. What was Mr. Kennedy's research for if you proved anything with consciousness after death?
Okay, define consciousness after death.
Well, that's the thing. Are we?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've done paranormal research and gotten lots of EVPs.
Yeah, I did a lot of what I call forensic EVPs.
I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I closed the Kennedy assassination.
Really?
And
you went to Dallas and got EVPs?
I went to Dallas. I went to Austin, down to the Jansen Ranch. I went to North Dallas, where Clint Murchison and H.L. Hunt are buried. I was started here in Chicago because Jacob Rubenstein, better known as Jack Ruby was born in Chicago, and he's buried at Montrose in Harlem. So I started the whole thing. Being a Kennedy, I needed to know what happened.
Right.
So
is there a relation?
Yeah. Yeah, actually there is. My dad and JFK were like six cousins.
Oh, wow.
But when you throw in good Catholics and sloppy Protestants at that point, there's thousands of them out there,
Well, you mentioned you went to, did you say you went to Howard Hunt? Grave?
Yeah.
See, now I always found interesting. We're a little off topic. Sorry, guys. I can't help it because I'm a big JFK conspiracy theorist. Sorry. Howard Hunt. You've seen the last recordings his son took of him, where he basically confesses to that they did it.
Yeah.
So you got EVPs of Howard Hunt?
Wait, that's not H.L. Hunt. H.L. Hunt was one of him and Clint Murchison were the two richest people in the world.
I thought you were talking about Howard Hunt from Watergate.
They were, the Watergate guy. He claimed they did it. Actually, Chicago has such a huge connection to the whole assassination. Not just Jack Ruby, but when the reality was Johnson got wind. Johnson's right-hand man, Bobby Baker, who, by the way, is still alive. One of a few people from that whole era is still alive.
Wow.
Bobby Baker had a girlfriend, and she had a townhouse with a roommate, and the roommate was Mary Jo Kopechne, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, Mary Jo Kopechne was an intern for Senator Smathers out of Florida. Smathers was the only guy that was at Kennedy's wedding who was not family. That's how good friends they were. So anyway, here it is, 63. They're getting ready to start making plans for the 64 re-election of John F. Kennedy. And Smathers tells his people, JFK asked him to be his running mate in 64. They're going to dump Johnson.
Yeah.
So Mary Jo goes back home and she tells her roommate, who tells Bobby Baker, and the whole Billy Saul Estes events down in Texas and everything. There was a lot of killing and a lot of cover up on all that stuff. So Bobby Baker and Lyndon are going, wow, we aren't just going to get investigated. We're going to do a hard time if I'm not vice president. So they decided Kennedy had to go.
Johnson had a lot of corruption he was trying to bury from his past.
Oh, you ain't kidding. He was one evil SOB.
Yes, he was.
So he goes to the CIA, buddy, and the CIA didn't like Kennedy because the CIA felt Kennedy didn't back the CIA during the Bay of Pigs. Well, and
I don't want to get down the whole JFK conspiracy route as much as I would love to, because I would. But I am interested though that you did get EVPs from those cases.
Yeah, I got an EVP of Kennedy, and I've got an EVP of all the people involved, all the side stories. But the interesting thing is when they needed a gunman They went to the CIA, and the CIA says, yeah, I've got a guy with 4 kills. And at this time, it was part of when the CIA was still working with the mob to try to kill Castro. So Sam Giancana, good old Sammy, he was there, and Sammy goes, 4 kills. I got a guy with 64 kills. Well, if you're going to remodel your bathroom, are you going to go with a guy that's done it 4 times or a guy that's done it 64? So they called on Chuck Nicoletti from Melrose Park. And Chuck Nicoletti was the actual trigger man.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So anyway, someday we'll do a whole show. And
I'd love to do really, yes.
One of the interesting things about when you talk about conspiracies, the whole phrase conspiracy theory was created by the CIA after Kennedy was shot, so that anybody that disagreed with the Warren Commission, you're just a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, it's worked all the way up until lately.
Yeah, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's cool stuff.
But, you know, some of these conspiracy theories now, some people have taken a lot more seriously than they did in the past. So I don't know, the internet's doing or whatever. But yeah, I would love to do a show where you got to, we could listen. I'm a big EVP guy. That's my favorite bread and butter evidence. So, you know, the original question started this whole conversation is, can you know, life after death, prove consciousness? Yeah. EVP is one of my favorite pieces of evidence to get. But back to this, the way you are able to map the brain and do this. So when you started mapping the brain, you started finding this, did you start looking at ways that we can use that knowledge, that you know this area of the brain, that people can better tap in to this ability?
Well, what I wanted to do, I wanted to prove the existence of the afterlife by brain mapping the brain when a psychic or a medium is talking to a spirit. That was my goal. So after I'd started brain mapping a medium, while that medium's communicating with a spirit, and I'm getting the same result in medium after medium after medium, I'm seeing that this is reproducible. When that medium communicates with a spirit, we're seeing the same thing in the brain. And that's why it was important to me to be able to reproduce this. And so far, I've done it over 800 times. And the end result was that yes, clearly the medium is communicating with the spirit. So much of what the medium's ascertaining from the spirit, they couldn't know anywhere else. I had a medium walk in here so I could brain map her. Sat her down, wired her up to the computer, and she goes, you know, your brother's here. Well, he's been dead about 20 years. And I go, oh, my God, you're kidding. Yeah, he misses playing tennis with you. And him and I used to play tennis all the time.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was a believer.
Right, right. I mean, that's as experiences I've had with people like you studied my friend Katrina Cooper. When I first met her.
Wait.
Yeah.
Katrina was the one that did that.
It was Katrina. See, yeah. I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she's the one that blew my mind. She blew my mind. The first time I ever met her, my wife was pregnant with our second kid we're going to have. And she has this problem. She's on a medication. When she go off of it, she would tell me, like, I get this, it's like a buzzing in my brain. Like there's bees in my brain. That's she'd have to be off this medication while she was pregnant. And Katrina told me stuff that related to my family and that, but right before we were getting ready to leave. And I was like, she's cold reading me. I can't tell. I don't think she's cold reading me. She knew some stuff, but she really blew me away. She goes, oh, there's one more thing. I'm getting a message about your wife is having like this buzzing in her brain. I stopped. I go, what? She goes, yeah, there's this buzzing she has, whatever. I don't know. What is this buzzing? I'm getting that she has buzzing in her brain. I go, this is a medication issue that she's having while she's pregnant. She goes, I mean, told she needs to smell citrus. She needs to just breathe in citrus to help. And it worked. It helped my wife tremendously. Like that, just that on. She blew me away.
Yeah, she's really good. She's been a very key member to our team for quite some time now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I'm convinced by people. Like Katrina's one of the very. I mean, there's other. I've had other mediums that have done some stuff, but I've never had a personal reading from them. It's hard to be convinced. You watch them tell somebody else. It's like, well, how do they know? Maybe I don't know. When they do it for you, you're like, oh wow. But my own personal experiences have always made me open to it because of the things that have happened to me. just spontaneous things. Like I said, like holding that guy's picture. I wasn't trying. And, you know, I know now that psychometry, you know, like holding an object or holding a photo. But could I reproduce that? Could I do that again? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it just, you know, the energy in the room was right that night that you were able to pick up on it? Or
well, you know, the thing is that before I even held the photo, I felt the energy when I first walked in the door. My wife, I turned to my wife, I go, this place has got something. There's something here. She goes, oh, he knows. They brought me over there without me knowing to see if I would know it was haunted. And, you know, because we thought it was just meeting her girlfriend's new boyfriend. And, but I knew the energy when I walked in there is like I wanted to drink. I am not a drinker. And, you know, and that's when I was just slowly picking up. When I held the photo, it was like zap, like suddenly it just coming out of me. Like I said, oh, his name's William, but he went by Bill. I don't even know why I said it. I just came out of my mouth, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that. Like, why would I speak without thinking about it? And I did. And then like when I focused in on it, I'm like, why did I say that? What am I hearing? You know, it's this little voice in my head, which is, it's my voice. It's my inner voice, but it's telling me information I should have no way of knowing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you didn't like that because you didn't have control over it. It was a control issue.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, now that you've learned how to map the way the area of the brain, if you've learned to develop techniques for people to hone in on it so they can control it, you know, they can tap into that.
One of the things that I use, I know a lot of empaths that they can't go to a movie theater, very seldom go to the mall. They can't go out to dinner because when they're in a crowd of people, they just suck up everybody's energy and it just ruins their time. All they feel is everybody's emotions. And so what I've done is I will hypnotize them, and using neuro-linguistic programming, I will condition them so that when they pinch their thumb and index finger together, an invisible wall goes up around them and blocks out that energy. And now they can go in anywhere, and that energy just bounces off their wall, and it doesn't affect them.
Well, that could help a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people, not just... And most of the empaths, all psychics are empaths, but not all empaths are psychic. And but so there's a lot of empaths out there, and so I've been working with some in particular, and we've been doing this, and we've had a lot of success. And then you just brush your fingers together, and the wall comes down until next time. But this way, they can go out and you can go home with your family and not have to worry about having this wall up. But when they want to go out in public and they don't want to be inundated with everybody's energy, they just raise the wall and presto.
I've considered myself and didn't know why I became, as I got older, more and more, I have trouble being around crowds of people. And even my work can be draining because I work with people. I'm in the public, you know, and you know, when I read about empaths, like I feel like I have a little bit of that. I pick up on people at work and how they feel without them saying anything. And I have stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to learn to block that because I have had some issues.
Yeah. And actually, when, you know, the more people I talk to, most people actually do have that. And so that's why I'm trying to get this perfected. So far, it's worked quite well. But I need to do a few more cases to make sure it works enough. And then I'm going to start, I'll probably put it together in a YouTube video so that, cause I'm not going to charge for it or anything. I just want people to be able to help themselves.
Well, yeah. I mean,
especially able to go out in public.
It's like for people that are severely empathic, it can be crippling.
It can. Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to people that, especially the convenience of today's society, they have all their food delivered. They have all their takeout delivered.
That's why you wonder if some people that are agoraphobic, that's the reason why.
Exactly. And maybe it was the original reason why, and now they've just gotten the habit of that.
Right.
But the end result is I'm trying to get this system together, and I expect to have it done after the first of the year, where we can then put it out there and people can start building their own little wall and protect themselves.
Now, when you work with psychics, I mean, I know psychics all have their different ways. Some are, clairsentient. Some are like
The
psychometry.
12 disciplines, right?
Right. Do you see any difference in the brain with them, or is it all the same area, no matter what their technique or the way that
Yeah,
they
it
do
doesn't
it?
matter what discipline, if they're clairaudient, clairvoyant, it all comes through the region of Psi, and that's what I find one of the most interesting things about it. This is where the energy comes through the brain and gets interpreted by the person. So it's got to be, there has to be a reason to it. We have a couple of one of the psychics who is down in Springfield, Missouri. She's more clairaudient. We had a little girl go missing. I posted the case, and I wasn't even done and getting off of our team Facebook page, and she's sending me a text and goes, "The girl's in a well." And she goes, "The girl's in a well. They're telling me she's in a well." And before we could learn the GPS location of the well, it was probably a good 12 hours. But when we identified the well, sure enough, there was her body in the well.
Oh,
so
wow.
Here within a heartbeat, my Springfield psychic, they're telling me she's in a well. So that's pretty cool.
Now, how many psychics do you say you work with Project Psi?
We've got about, I think there's 6 psychics and 6 forensic remote viewers for Project Psi itself. Then there's the Austin team. I just trained the Austin team. They've got 5 people. They're a totally independent team in Austin. Texas is so big and has so many problems down there that I figured we needed our own team.
You got a lot of missing people in Texas.
Yeah, there is. There's just a lot of crazy stuff. Down in Houston, the Port of Houston, by Texas City, we've had a lot of cases where they put girls on ships and ship them. We had about 10 months ago, we had a case where we knew these girls were on a ship. We knew they were in the storage container. I contacted the harbor. Harbor says it's under the flag, an Indonesian flag. We can't touch it.
Mm.
And I said, well, what can we do? I know these girls are on the ship. And he goes, your best bet is contact the State Department. The State Department can issue a warrant. But that warrant, it could take anywhere from a couple of days to 2 weeks before that warrant comes
It'll
through.
be gone.
Yeah, so this was a Monday morning, and so by Thursday, I'm reading the manifest online, and I see the ship left for Indonesia. Well, from Houston to get to Indonesia, they got to go through the Panama Canal. So I didn't think much more about it. I was just upset because we missed this opportunity. And I had called the State Department, and they're just very mechanical, took my report. I'll get back to you, Mr. Kennedy, So then 2 weeks later, I get a call from the State Department. Dr. Kennedy, we're following up with your complaint.
Really?
And I couldn't even remember what complaint. I was blown away. Again, the guy's very mechanical, very businesslike.
Yeah.
He said the warrant was issued based on your information, and in the Panama Canal, the FBI boarded the ship, and they boarded the ship, found the shipping container, and there were 9 girls inside.
Oh my God.
And I was just so blown away. Unfortunately, the one girl we were looking for wasn't in there. So I don't know. Most of those ships with shipping containers, they have 2,000 to 3,000 shipping containers.
Well,
So I don't
this
know.
started because of I'm guessing because a family looking for a missing person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how does that work? Do they contact you through your website, and then you kind of divvy it out to a team to kind of do the remote viewing, or using just a one psychic to look at it?
What we do is I find most of the cases online, and I go through 3 times a day. I go through 42 websites that are news websites, local news, because in Upper Armpit, Iowa, you're not going to get the news on national news, regardless of what national, until it catches somebody's attention. So
Right.
these people, most of these kids are missing for weeks by the time it hits national news.
There's too many
And-
to reach national news. We'd have it on national news every day for how many kids go missing.
Yeah, and part of the thing is in the United States, 2,000 teenagers are runaways every day. And over 99% of them are home within 24 hours. So you'll see that so-and-so is missing, possibly a runaway. But then when they go home, it's an embarrassment for the family. So the family never sends out a press release that, oh, our goofy son came back to us.
Right.
So it's just a big embarrassment. So you don't know that these things are closed. So normally I won't take a runaway right away because...
Just like the police don't. I mean, they don't.
Yeah. Well, they have to take the report and so forth. But one of the interesting things is runaways give off, they don't want to be found. That's why they ran away. I don't want to be found. So they give off psychic misdirection.
Oh,
And
so that's possible. Somebody doesn't want to be found, then they can throw you off just by subconsciously not wanting to be found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, and here they ran away in Oklahoma City. And so they give off psychic misdirection. An abducted child gives off psychic breadcrumbs, and they're easier to find. And we have enough abducted children. We don't need to go chasing runaways that are going to be home tomorrow.
Right.
However, according to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, 70% of runaways who live on the street, there's runaways that go live at their friend's house for 2 days and then go home, but 70% of runaways who live on the street are approached by human traffickers within 48 hours.
Oh, yeah.
70%. So we have turned down a case on Monday, but I'll keep an eye on the case, and by Thursday, it's now an abduction. And then we'll take the case and we'll bring that child home.
They're looking for the vulnerable, the weak, and the ones that are nobody's going to miss, they think. So, yeah, I mean, that's the sad fact of it. And there's so much of it. I mean, we had Robbie Thomas on, who's a psychic profiler. And, he brought that up, the sex trafficking, quite a bit, and how much he's dealt with that. If there's one thing you could do to help find missing kids, that's the biggest benefit. Like I said, just finding one is incredible. Using these abilities, to find 100 is just amazing.
When they're looking for kids, everyone thinks, they drive up in a white van and drag the kid off the street. And that seldom actually happens. They go to Mickey D's and places like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll look for the kid with the low self-esteem.
Yep.
He's got slumped shoulders. He won't make eye contact. He's looking down. And they go in and they'll buy the kid lunch and they'll befriend them. And they'll become everything that's missing in that kid's life. And that's how they convince that kid to leave with them. Not by dragging him out, kicking and screaming, but they become that kid's best friend. And then now, bingo, they got that child.
Well, that's how serial killers work by get people to trust them and let them get close.
Right.
And then they turn around, there's the axe, I mean,
exactly.
But I when I was a kid, I knew a boy who was older than me. When I was a little kid, he actually had the whole white van pull up while he was riding down the road in his bike and rip him off his bike and try to take him and run for it. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah. But according to the FBI, that actually only happens about 100 times a year in the entire United States. Whereas the other stuff happens about 100 times a week.
Right. Because those are what go unnoticed,
right.
I saw on a local posting group in Facebook for my town, some lady noticed this guy approaching these two girls, two 12-year-old girls at McDonald's and buying them food and talking to them. And she just, she watched them. She followed them all the way out the parking lot and called the police and reported the McDonald's. I'm like, you go, I would have too. Because you have no business as an adult talking to those two young girls.
Exactly. Exactly. And one of the things when we started the Human Trafficking Task Force and we started going after the human traffickers per se, not just when there's a child missing, but going after the traffickers up front. When I do the CSI Psi classes, I tell them the key component of remote viewing is remote. You don't go to crime scenes. You don't go out there and you are not part of the boots on the ground. And if we need somebody to, because you're seeing that there's people leering at kids at the Walmart, they're hiding in their car and every kid that goes by, they're looking at. what I've partnered with the National, I never remember the name of this, Neighborhood Watch organization. And this way, if whatever town we need boots on the ground, somebody to go drive through that parking lot, the police don't have the resources. The Neighborhood Watch, they love this stuff. And so even the Texas City case, we had a Neighborhood Watch. I got a hold of a local Neighborhood Watch guy. I told him what we're doing, and he just, this is good stuff. And then they staked out a Hertz truck rental place where the bad guys were running the trucks to drive the girls in. And that was what broke the case open. So we use Neighborhood Watch groups to be our eyes and ears on the ground. And that works out beautiful.
And you get to confirm that you're right. You're not just seeing nothing, because they could tell if you have a remote viewer saying it looks like this and this, and you have boots on the ground and go, yeah, that's exactly what this is they're seeing. That can give you some confirmation too that you are on the right track.
One of the other things, what we've used a lot in a lot of cases, cold case murders and missing persons, when you going back as far as Perry Mason, when they have a witness, they'll bring in a sketch artist. Right. And it used to be an actual artist with a pad of paper and a pencil, and he'd sketch what the bad guy looks like.
Well, they got software.
Nowadays, it's all computers. So I bought the professional software for sketch artists, and I handed out that team, and we did workshops, and everyone got the hang of it. And now, when a psychic locks in on the vision, this is what the bad guy looks like. He's got a scar over his left eye, kind of a wiry beard, and a thin mustache, and whatever. When they used to tell me that in the early days, and I go, I have no idea who the hell you're looking at. But now they'll make a sketch using their software, and they'll send me the picture, and then I'll send that to the Neighborhood Watch Group, and the Neighborhood Watch Group goes, yeah, I know who this guy is. We'll keep an eye on it for you.
That's crazy. This is one of the things I've told to a number of psychics I've had on the show, is that I use the Star Wars reference because I'm a Star Wars fan, but is that we need like Jedis. We need like a group of people, that hone these skills, these abilities, and a network and a way to use it, to help and to find people and to solve these cases. And that's exactly, you're a man after my own heart, Dr. Kennedy, because
thank you.
You're doing exactly what I've always dreamed of being a part of. I'd love to, get it. We got more of the show to go. So there's a lot I want to get into on this tonight, because this is something that I've always wanted to see happen, and you're doing it, and that's more kudos to you, because it needs to be done. We need to really start taking this stuff really seriously. But we're gonna go to our commercial break.
Protect the kids.
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of people that need help. A lot of kids are lost out there. But we are gonna go to commercial break, guys. When we come back, I will open up the phone lines. There's gonna be 2 phone lines tonight because we got Dr. Kennedy on the other one. But you can call in, tell us about your own psychic experience, or maybe you got a question for Dr. Kennedy, how to develop your own abilities. Tonight's your night. Call in. We're gonna do more psychic development shows on the. We're gonna do a little bit on the Halloween show coming up, because this is something I'm getting into. I'm more interested in developing my own abilities, so we'll talk more about that as we get into the show tonight. But call in. We'll be back after this short commercial break.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Knights of the Road, here's your stallion. The car for freedom. The car for hot excitement. The car for a man who was alone against the elements.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
The pride is back. It's the power of a compact.
It looks small, but it's so big.
Fuel injected.
Inject me.
My Matsu Thunder. On the toll road of life, you have to pay to prove you can. Live the emotion of an individual. The awesome power of nature distilled into one vehicle. Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch somebody.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Otis.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Hi, Jill. What are you making?
I'm making average noodles for my kids.
What are they like?
They're distinctly average. This one is broccoli flavour.
That is very average. I could barely raise any extreme enthusiasm for those whatsoever.
You should try their other flavours like carrot, plain fish and potato.
Are they quick to prepare?
Compared to other noodles, you mean?
Yes.
They're pretty average, actually.
Well, I might just possibly go and maybe buy some sometime in a bit, perhaps.
Yes, I'm sure your whole family will be mildly interested in average noodles.
Average noodles, they're okay, just nothing special.
Hi, Jill! What are you making? I'm making super noodles. For your kids? Stuff that for me. What flavour are they? They're magnificent mild curry. Oh, they are super! Wait till you try their other flavours, like sudden fried chicken, barbecue beef and cheese and ham. Wow, Jill, this has changed my life! Now I really appreciate the meaning of the word super as an adjective. Mummy, can we have some? Yes! In fact, let's invite the whole street round for tea! Yeah!
Fabulous super noodles, not named super for nothing.
The first time was only a warning. Damien, Omen 2. Now showing at the Leicester Square Theatre. Certificate X. Available in paperback from Futura Books.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Nervous?
Yes. I don't like this.
You only have 75 more to go. Okay? What's this one?
It's a couple of wavy lines.
Sorry, this isn't your lucky day.
I know. I'm getting a little tired of this.
You volunteered, didn't you? We're paying you, aren't we?
Yeah, but I didn't know you were going to be giving me electric shocks. What are you trying to prove here anyway?
I'm studying the effect of negative reinforcement on ESP ability.
The effect? I'll tell you what the effect is. It's pissing me off.
Well, then maybe my theory is correct.
You can keep the $5. I've had it.
I will, mister.
Tonight, our guest is Dr. Chuck Kennedy, founder of Project Psi. We're talking about the abilities of people to be able to remote view an area, find a missing person, solve a cold case using psychic ability, and Dr. Kennedy has been mapping that with EKG readings. He can find a particular area in the brain. He's able to tell if somebody's using the actual area in the brain that would be psychic. He's identified it. I can't say the name of the area of the brain. We'll have him remind us of it again. I am not a neuroscience scientist like Dr. Kennedy, but I find it fascinating. I think the most unexplored thing, but not our oceans, not space, is our minds. We have not explored anywhere near the depths of what is human consciousness and this ability to tap into somewhere or someplace and know things without having no way of knowing it. You know, I've had this experience. I know it's real because my own personal experience, and I think a lot of you have too. And the phone lines are open tonight. You can call in, share your experiences with us. There's two ways to call in. There's 219-230-4444, or you can call in if you have a Skype app or phone line. Is Skype ID 00JBland00. So 219-230-4444 or Skype ID 00JBland00. Call in, tell us about your psychic experience, or if you have a question from Dr. Kennedy about how to develop your own psychic abilities, call in tonight. We want to hear from you. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Kennedy. You still there with us?
I am.
Now, one of the things I was wondering too, because you're around the Chicago area. We had I wondered if you've done cold cases, and I know you've done haunted locations and stuff like that. Did you ever do anything with the murder castle? The property where it was at? Because we actually had Jeff Mudgett on, the great grandson of H.H. Holmes, and he has this theory, and I can sometimes buy into it, that H.H. Holmes was really Jack the Ripper. So that's a cold case right there.
It is, and no, actually, and yeah, I've talked to Jeff about it, and the thing was, last time I saw Jeff and we kicked the idea around and so forth, we were really up to our elbows in missing persons, and it just struck me as a higher priority.
Oh, I totally get that.
And so we never really got around to it, and I haven't talked to Jeff in a while. I know he's back in town. He's in Chicago this weekend.
Oh yeah.
But no, I haven't talked to him in probably about a year.
Well, it's such a fascinating case. I know the missing people, you're doing what's in the now and present, but man, I would love for you guys to hone in on that. No, because I'm with Jeff. I think there's something to his theory. I really do.
Well, I have to agree with you. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that the possibility that H.H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper is a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, a lot of the evidence is circumstantial, but it really points to Holmes.
Sorry, I couldn't help asking because I knew you were in the area, and I didn't know you knew Jeff Mudgett, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting case, and one of the other things he was going after last time I talked to him, they were filming the TV show, and they were going to exhume his great grandfather's grave and everything. We have nothing that's admissible in court, and so I just didn't feel that we could really contribute to the case rather than the evidence that they could collect when they did the exhumation.
Right.
Well, the exhumation turned out to be a bust. They screwed that up.
Yeah, I know.
And that wasn't Jeff's fault, but they screwed it up anyway. So we just never went anywhere with it. But one of my team members is very good friends with Jeff, and they've talked about it extensively. But
you never know.
Maybe
a psychic or remote viewer can point Jeff in the right direction that he never would have realized. It would get him
I think he's in the right direction. He just can't get the physical help.
Yeah.
To prove his case, and I think he trusts the wrong people out in what was it, Pennsylvania? Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I think he just put his trust in the wrong hands, and they blew his case, and now he's kind of back to square one, and that's a shame.
Well, there are cold cases though that you do take that are more recent. I mean, what's one of the oldest cold cases that you've solved?
About 13 years old. We just actually the Austin team that I just put together. They worked down in Austin. There's a murder known as the yogurt shop murders, and
Sounds really familiar.
That was from '94, and there was 4 girls ages 13 to 17, I think, and they were raped and murdered in this yogurt shop and
I remember
set on
this.
fire. Yeah. And actually, the team just broke that open last week. And I had a guy in Tennessee call me up. His niece was murdered 2 years ago. Well, this was like 2 years ago. It happened 2 years before that in Sacramento. And so we worked that case. And that was one of them where we used the sketch artist software. And we put together a composite picture. I sent it to the Sacramento Cold Case Department. And then I called them up to follow up. And I said, I sent you an email, and it's got a picture of the guy that killed whatever her name was. And he goes, and how do you know that? And I go, well, we're a team of psychics. And you can hear the guy clicking his keys as he's opening his email. And he goes, oh, psychics. Oh, really? Oh, my God, I know who this is.
That's what
when he looked at the picture. And I said, yeah, he's killed the girl, and you just have to lean on him harder until he confesses. And again, I was surprised. This guy called me back a week and a half later and said, you were right. We put pressure on him, and he confessed. He was the ex-boyfriend's drug dealer, and the ex-boyfriend owed him money, and the boyfriend didn't have it, so he went to the girlfriend's house, and she didn't have it, so he raped her. And then he felt like, well, he's going to go to jail for that, so he killed her. And so that case was solved. So that worked out pretty well for that family.
Now, you in your bio, you talked about you have psychics you work with, and then forensic remote viewers. Tell people a little bit about the differences between the two.
The psychics are strictly that. They're psychic. They use their psychic ability and their God-given gifts as remote viewers to identify where the child is at. Now, most of them were used to looking, and they could see the child. But let's say I put a bag over your head, drive you around for 3 hours in a car, take you into a building, take the bag off of your head, and I ask you, what do you see? Well, there's a fireplace and a coffee table, a big TV. Okay, but where are you? I don't know.
Yeah, none of that helps.
I have no idea where I'm at. So that was kind of where we were at in the early days. And so we had this one case down in Urbana, Illinois, and it was an 18-year-old boy. He was mentally challenged, and he walked away from a group home. And so my Toronto psychic calls me up, and she goes, I see him. He's standing in front of a pet store. I said, is it a mom and pop pet store, or is it a chain like Petco or PetSmart? She looks, she goes, no, it's a mom or pop. I said, okay, that's helpful. And I said, turn to your right. What do you see? She goes, oh my God, I've never done that before. I go, come on, just turn to your right. What do you see? She goes, there's a coffee shop. I said, okay, turn to your left. What do you see? There's an alley. Turn around. What's behind you across the street? There's a donut shop. And I said, okay, now go 1,000 feet in the air, not 10,000 where you can't identify things. 1,000 feet in the air. Look for landmarks. Is there a water tower? Is there a high school? Is there a river? Is there railroad tracks? Is there a hospital? She goes, I see a hospital. I said, okay, if the pet store is the center of a clock, what time is the hospital? She goes, 2 o'clock. And I said, about how far away? She goes, about a quarter mile. So I pulled up Google Maps for pet stores. I pulled up Google Maps for hospitals, did a graphic overlay, and I called the Urbana police and said he's standing in front of Joe and Jean's pet store on 7th Street. And I was still on the phone with dispatcher when the car pulled up, and they got him.
Wow.
So it's how you identify. Now, one of the beauties of Google Maps, and I'm not a big fan of Google, but Google Maps, if you click on any spot, if you click on a spot in the city, a little window pops up at the bottom, a little rectangle, and it tells you the address that you clicked on and the GPS location. But we had a case where the body was washed up on an island in the river in the middle of Iowa. There were no addresses, but still, the beauty of Google Maps is we clicked on that island and we got a GPS location. And I called the county sheriff and I said, a quarter mile south of highway such and such on the such and such river, right on that island, the body's there and it's GPS location such and such. He goes, how the hell do you know that? And I go, because that's what we do. And sure enough, they were able to go and they were able to get the body and give the family closure. Now, the beauty of this is it works all over the world. I mean, you can go into the mountains of Afghanistan. We probably should have gone after Bin Laden had we thought of it, but we were an actor back then. Anyway, we had a case in the Ukraine, in Odessa, in the Ukraine. And we found this machine shop and we clicked on the machine shop. And presto, Google pulls up the address. And I sent the address, and when the girl we were looking for was in this machine shop, but so were 7 other girls. They were all tied up in this Ukraine machine shop. So that worked out really well. So we use Google Maps a whole lot to identify where someone is.
Well, it sounds like a powerful tool for a psychic once they're trying to like pinpoint a location. How many of your psychics just go and get a feeling on Google Maps and go, that's it right there? Use it.
And they do all the time, and it works. We had a case up in South Dakota, out in the middle of nowhere, and we sent the authorities in, and sure enough, the mine shaft was right where we said it was, and they went in, and there was the body of the girl, the 8-year-old.
Wow.
So it works pretty well. Now, the difference between a psychic and a forensic remote viewer, which was your original question, that's how the psychics work. The forensic remote viewers work very similar, but they have to go through a paper process. It's about 6 pages. And they use the process that is very similar, but not exactly, to controlled remote viewing that Stargate used.
Right. That's what I wondered.
And they go through the process. One of my best forensic remote viewers is as psychic as a brick. I mean, he can't pick up on anything. But in the past year, since he's taken the course, he's brought home 10 abducted children.
Right. And that's what I took away from like the Third Eye Spies. I mean, even Russell Targ was doing remote viewing, I mean, like these scientists that didn't even believe in it when they started are now doing it because they're like, well, we're finding like anybody could do this. Now that's where I get into this, why the government shut it down. If you find out, you just discover that people can predict or see things 80% correct. That 80% is a lot. And you don't want people to see secret stuff you're doing or plots you have going on. You wouldn't want that to come out in the open, say, and let everybody know that the government believes in this and it works. You don't want that to get out.
Exactly. And remote viewing is not really a psychic phenomena as such, but it's actually an imposed discipline or skill that helps the viewer to facilitate or harness his or her own intuition. And when people ask me, can I learn this? That's up to you. That's whether you really want to. I always equate it to learning to play a musical instrument. If you practice at it, you'll be amazing. You'll see stuff that you couldn't believe you see. And your superpower is in believing in yourself, even when no one else does. But you have to practice at it, and it doesn't take a whole lot of practice. You do it a couple nights a week.
What do you have people first start out doing to practice for remote viewing?
On my website, I have a resource page, and the resource page, I have practice. I have about 23 different practice cases there. And they're not missing person cases. They're the Eiffel Tower, the Oval Office in the White House, the Arizona Monument over the sunken ship, and their locations. And this is how they get in the habit of remote viewing other locations. Ford Theater, where John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln. And so there's all of these things. This is how they practice working those cases. And then they get up to speed. Then I give them some missing person cases. And no one is more shocked when they work a missing person case and they nail it than they are. They don't think they can do it, but they do. It's so cool. I've had people. We had a North Dakota case about 3 Januaries ago. This girl here in St. Charles, she had just taken the class. It was afternoon on a work day. Everybody was at work. I couldn't get a hold of anyone, but she was at home. So I called her. I said, remote view this, see what you see. This 5-year-old boy, when he was walking with his dad in the woods and he disappeared. And she remote viewed it and said the dad started howling at the boy and scared the boy, and the boy is hiding in a hollowed out tree. Tell the mom to go back there, not the dad, because he's scared to death of the dad. Tell the mom to go back to that exact same location and call his name. He's right there. Well, it was getting dark out, and mom's panicky. Mom goes out there, and she had called me personally with the case, and she called me on the way back home in her car. She's sobbing, and I thought, oh, this isn't good. And she goes, oh, thank you so much. I found him. He's fine. I got a blanket on him. He's warming up. And so my remote viewer, who had never done more than a practice case, I saw her about a week ago, and she says, I still can't believe I did that.
Yeah. I mean, because to her, it's like, is this just my imagination, or am I, really getting something here? Because that's what I would say. That's that line between the ability of knowing something you shouldn't know and what is just my imagination.
And that's where we practice. This is where I specify the important thing is you have to practice and you have to hang on to your ACE, not your AOL. And no, AOL is not, you've got mail. Your ACE is when we use our 5 senses, when we see something, that's a conscious event. When you hear something, that's a conscious event. When you listen to my melodious tones, that's a conscious event. When you smell something, when you taste something, if you feel a spider run up your arm, that's a conscious event. When you feel the warmth of your urine running down your leg because a spider ran up your arm, that's a conscious event. So those are all conscious and cognitive events. These cognitive events, when a psychic hears something, sees something, senses something, that's an anomaly. It's not one of your original senses. So that's an anomaly, or an ACE, an anomalous conscious event. Now, the thing is, your brain has about 3 seconds, because you got all the stuff going on in your brain.
Right.
You've got imagination. You have memories. You have knowledge. You have all your kinesthetics coming through, and you get an ACE. So your brain has about 3 seconds before it takes that ACE and turns it into an AOL, an analytical overlay. We had a case. I call my psychic. She goes, I see the woman in a car. The car is going in the river. Across the river is a big building. I used to go to a casino that's right along that river. So that was what we focused on, was a casino.
Yeah.
That was her AOL. Her ACE was the car's going in the river and there's a big building across the river. We focused on the casino, and when we found the car, it was in the river 6 miles downstream. There was a big factory across the building. But she let her brain tell her that, oh, that big building is probably the casino.
Right.
That was her AOLs. Always trust your ACE, not your AOL. So that's what we.
Is that like the first thing that comes to your mind? Like that first thing?
It is, and lock on it. Lock on it so you can interrogate what you see. You can analyze it. You can look at it. You can see everything that's going on. If you're looking at a car, what kind of car is it? What's the license plate? What color is it? What year? What make? How many people are in that car? Which way is that car going? But your focus is on the car, not, oh, maybe the car is in New York, or maybe the car is in Florida. Don't let your brain try to analyze what it is you're looking at. Your ACE is what you see. It's like when we first started doing web pages in the 90s, they had different things to make web pages, and they were called a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. And that's what you want to do with your ACE. What you see is what you get. You hang on to that. You don't let your brain twist it, contaminate it in any way.
See, I've always
Because
wondered, or to say, when you watch some of these psychics, like especially mediums, on these shows, some of them seem to talk really fast when they're doing it. Like, and I've always wondered they're doing this because they're trying to make sure they're getting out what is the first thing that comes. Like they're trying to, and then they have to keep in this like this sped up mode to make sure they don't slow down and start thinking about what they're saying.
Yeah. Because the minute you think about it, you're lost. Same thing with the when you're doing remote viewing. You don't want to think about what you're doing. You want to just follow the flow. Let it flow. Let everything come together. At the end, you got your ace. What's your ace? Well, I don't think it makes sense. I didn't ask you to make sense out of it. I asked you what's your ace. And they go, oh, my ace is this. I go, that's beautiful. What do you mean it's beautiful? That's what everyone else is telling me. Really? And they can't believe that what they're seeing is what everyone else is telling them. And it's so powerful and so important. And they have to learn to believe in themselves. But part of the thing is, especially psychics, their whole life, everyone, their family, everyone told them they're crazy, they're different, they're
Most
weird.
of them don't tell their family because they know that's what their family's reaction will be.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for them to be able to get validation that, no, what you're doing, you're saving a child's life this way. This is so important. This is so powerful. And they just love that they're contributing to helping children.
How often do you, when you have a case or something, do you funnel it out to two different teams to see, and they don't communicate with each other to see if they come up with similar results? Do you ever do that?
When I funnel it out to the team itself, even if we got 12 people working on it, on that one team, they don't talk to each other. They're not allowed to talk to each other.
Right, that's what I wondered. So that probably helps validate when you all come back with like similar, especially if you all come back with one particular thing, you're like, do you kind of hone in on that then?
Exactly. And part of the thing is it's not the validation, but what I don't want is you're usually going to have one team member who last week was amazing. This week, they're picking up different energy, so they're going to end up contaminating everybody else. Now the whole team is going a different direction.
Right.
Have you ever driven down the highway and you're listening, maybe you're listening to a country station, and all of a sudden you go past the transmitter? I get that kind of, well, whatever station you're listening to, you go past the radio transmitter, and suddenly your car radio turns to whatever station you just passed, because that station is the most powerful station in the area. You're going to pick it up. Okay. And sometimes psychic ability is like that. My psychic that picked up on, she's in the well. 2 weeks later, we had a 6-day-old baby that was kidnapped. The mother was murdered.
Oh my
God. The baby was kidnapped out of Wichita, Kansas. And I call my my first psychic there. She goes, I see the baby being stabbed to death in the alley. And I go, oh, that's horrible. So I talk to everybody else. Everybody else sees the baby kidnapped by a Hispanic woman in Topeka. And the baby's taken to Dallas. So why did the one woman come up with, she's an amazing psychic, why did she come up, I see the baby stabbed to death?
Right.
And she was picking up the strongest signal in her region, and it just wasn't our case.
It was something else.
All right. Exactly. And that's why we use a team. I have psychics call me all the time.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I have psychics all the time that call me and tell me, oh, you don't need a team, you just need me. Wrong answer.
Right. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. If they're all 80% round, 75, 80% right, which is what I think is roughly for the really good ones, about their average.
Actually, my 5 best psychics are in the 92, 93% success rate.
Wow. Well, this is the thing. They're in that, even in that high, there's still that margin of error. That the pull from a pool of 12 different ones, you're going to pretty much know what direction you should probably be going in. What you should be looking for. That it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure our government, when they were doing remote viewing, didn't just take one remote viewer and go off of that. They probably funneled it out to a few different ones to see what they came up with.
Actually, that was part of the thing. They usually use one remote viewer per case, and that was one of the reasons why I went with a team.
See, yours makes sense. Yeah, you make sense.
And my whole life, I was never a team player until I put Project Psi together. And I'm going, what the hell am I doing with a team? But it works. It really, really works.
Well, statistically,
and now here's the interesting thing in this Wichita case. So we get done. I go to my psychic. I go, what do you see? And she tells me what she sees. She goes, for some reason, I'm getting the name Jessica. And I don't know why. And I always tell them, tell me everything. I'll put it into the computer program I made, and we'll see what it kicks out. So I put in Jessica. I go to the next person, and I see the mother was killed. The baby was kidnapped, taken to Dallas, blah, blah, blah. They're in a little bungalow, and they describe the house, the bungalow, and that. So then, but for some reason, I'm getting the name Jessica. And I thought, this is that. It was a Hispanic family. It was a Hispanic kidnapper. Where is Jessica coming from? And so after doing 5 psychics, 4 of the 5 came up with the name Jessica.
Really? Wow.
So Jessica has to be in there somewhere, but why is Jessica coming up? So I kept following the case in the news to see what was what. There was a human interest story about a week and a half later, and Wichita newspaper is talking about the first officer on the scene was so overwhelmed to see this new mother murdered and her baby gone. And it was Officer Jessica O'Malley. And they were all picking up on her energy because she was so emotional about this new mother being killed. So that's pretty cool. So it's crazy, the little things they pick up on. But I put everything into the matrix because who knows what it all means until we get it all in there. And that's why I call my job the PM, the project manager or the puzzle master, because I have to take all these pieces and put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And
how much do you think, I guess not for the forensic remote viewing, it wouldn't be as much of a play to it, but for the psychics, how much do you think they are actually getting some of this information from, you have a person who is murdered in a cold case, that spirit comes through them and gives them information. Do you think that's what happens with psychics? Some psychics, they're mediums. Are they getting it from the actual deceased person, the information?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've got two of our early cases. Not only has these 2 spirits, stayed with my 3 of my mediums, stays with them and helps us on cases.
Like a
guides us in the
spirit
right
team.
direction.
I hear psychics say I have a spirit team of people that help.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool. And actually this one spirit that comes along, she actually came to us to enlist our help to find her murderer. And she was up in Canada. My Toronto team member, talking to her one morning, she goes, there's a woman standing in my living room. I go, anybody I know? She goes, I don't know. I don't know who this woman is, but she keeps asking me, find out who killed me. Find out who killed me. I said, that's interesting. So then I talked to my Las Vegas psychic. My Las Vegas psychic says, someone woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She's sitting on the foot of my bed telling me, help me. Find out who killed me.
She doesn't know about the other psychic saying this.
No, because they don't talk to each other. I don't let them talk to each other. And then I'm talking to my Rhinelander lady, and she's going, yeah, I got a visit from the spirit this morning. She wants us to find out who killed her. And I said, well, does anybody know who she is? It's going to kind of help if we want to find out who killed her, where she was killed, and so forth. And then later that day, I got an email from her godmother and said, my goddaughter was murdered, and we'd like you to help find out.
So she probably oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
And we had one of my psychics had already put a sketch together. And so I took the sketch and I sent it to this godmother. And I says, is this your goddaughter? She goes, oh my God, where did you get that?
Oh, wow.
And I go, it's kind of a long story.
Well, it makes you wonder, this woman was probably looking for some kind of help to solve this case, and that spirit's there and sees her looking up Project Psi. She's like, I'm going to find these people. And that just makes you wonder, So many questions, so much what's going on the other side to have that, that they could just travel like that and know who to reach out to, and that what is the information on the other side, that spirits are able to tap into. What knowledge do they have? I've always wondered how much psychics, I mean, one of the things, some of the psychics like James Van Praagh, he didn't develop his ability till later in life after his father died, I think it was. And you wonder, certain people have somebody pass in their family, and then that person suddenly is like, hey, I'm going to help you. You're going to start seeing people, or I'm going to help you find stuff. You just wonder, like, some people become more psychic later in life because somebody passed, or somebody, a spirit came to them that's now connecting them to this other information or realm.
And they feel the need to be able to, I have to develop this because I got to help people because of what I've been through. And yeah, I wonder, did this spirit find me first, or did the godmother find me first? Maybe the spirit led the godmother to our website.
Well, I would have been interested to ask the godmother. Is like, when, I just have to ask you, like, when was it that you first discovered us? And like what date? She'd be like, because you would be wanting to know, like, did this ghost or spirit, know ahead of time, like see the future, or did she just, like I said, was standing over her shoulder while she was on the internet and said, "Oh, okay, that's where you're going to"?
I tried to find that out, and sadly, the godmother was a bit of she's a very nice lady, but a bit of a scatterbrain, and I wasn't able to get a definitive answer on that.
Trauma. Well, people going through loss and trauma are scatterbrained. It's when you lose somebody. It can wreck your whole life and your psychology.
It can.
Yeah. We do have somebody on the phone line here too. If you're ready to take a phone call, we got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in,
Dr. Kennedy. I just have 2 questions for you, my man. Very nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
My first question to you, my man, is what is your analysis and your opinion on some of the missing person cases that Sylvia Brown worked on?
Oh, geez.
I'm not really familiar with I remember seeing Sylvia Brown on TV, but that was back during my, when I was working, and I was working 80 hours a week, and I don't know the specifics. So I really can't comment on her success or lack of success. I just don't know.
Yeah, because I know they actually they talked about. I think there was one guest that was on there. She was asking about really her daughter, and Sylvia Brown claimed that she was deceased, but yet they later found out she was one of the kidnapped girls that were found in this one gentleman's basement. She was held captive for over 10 years.
Well,
yeah.
So, but Zach brings up a great point there. Hold on for your second question. We'll get to that here in a second, Zach. But this is the reason why, like, I've always wanted to develop my ability and all that, but I could never picture myself, even if I felt I was really good, going up on Montel Williams and having grieving parents come to me and say, "Is my kid alive?" Because you're even 92%, there's a chance you're going to get it wrong. And you're on TV and you're gonna get it wrong, and something that's very serious. That is just to put yourself in that position. It takes a lot of guts. I give a lot of credit to the ones that do, but Sylvia Brown, towards the end of her life, was starting to get a lot of stuff wrong, and a lot of people just called her out for over years for just being a con lady. I don't know if she was.
I don't think she was necessarily a con lady.
I know. I've always felt that way too.
As a neuroscientist and having worked with over 10,000 dementia patients, she had dementia in her final years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was interfering with her abilities, and she just didn't have. She probably should have shut down sooner because she was losing her ability, and she just didn't want to admit it. And
there's that fine line again too, Dr. Kennedy, where imagination and knowing, and she doesn't know that it's just her imagination and it's not knowing anymore.
Exactly.
And I felt bad for Sylvia Brown, to be honest. All right, Zach, what's your second question? Sorry.
No, it's all good. Dr. Kennedy, I wanted to know if you ever worked on any cases that actually involved powerful and well-connected individuals.
We start talking about sex trafficking. Great question.
Let me put it this way. I've had 3 death threats in the last 6 months, and I really don't want to get into the notorious cases because these people don't like me.
Well, no, that's a great point. It's great. That's a great point. If you start catching child traffickers, child sex traffickers, you start catching the whole network. This is a network that's been around for 1,000 years, in my opinion. It's the underbelly of society, sick society. And there's a lot of elite, powerful people that use it as currency. And you start mixing around in that, it's dangerous. You're in dangerous waters, man. They made people disappear for less.
I really don't care about myself so much, but most of the team members, they have families, they have children, they have grandchildren, and that's why even I talk about my Matrix, my computer program that I load everything into.
Yeah.
The entire team has nicknames, and this way, if somebody hacks my computer, if somebody breaks in here and kills me and takes my computer, the best they can get is a nickname. They can't find out who my actual team members are.
Right.
And that way, because I'm not going to put the team at risk. I'm not going to put the neighborhood watch people at risk. I just can't do that to them. And
no, it makes a lot of sense.
It's just that simple. Yeah.
Well,
but yeah, when we busted that human trafficking ring 2 weeks ago today, each of those children were worth $600,000. So that's $8.5 million
right
worth.
there. Yeah, you might as well be messing with the drug business, man.
To them, it's all about business. It's money. And it's not personal. It's not about sex for them. It's all about money.
Like I said, they use it as
currency. When you cut into their livelihood, they don't like you real lot.
Yeah. Well, hey, Zach, thank you for calling in, bud.
Thank you so much for allowing me to call in, Jason. And thank you, Dr. Kennedy, for answering my questions, man. Love hearing what you have to say.
Have a good night and God bless.
God bless.
But, Zach brought up some really good questions there because, makes you think about that there is a danger. I mean, that Third Eye Spies documentary points out, which was the remote viewer. I lost his name. Dang it. I had it in my head a second ago. There was one remote viewer from the early program that worked at SRI, and then the CIA took him, recruited him away from him. And
Pat Price.
Yeah, Pat Price, exactly. And then Pat Price ends up dead.
Exactly.
And he was the one who remote viewed a Russian secret installation or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. He was the one, they wanted to get the attention of the government. So he remote viewed Fort Meade in Maryland.
That's right, yes.
The NSA headquarters.
That's right.
And he remote viewed the director's desk. And back then they didn't have the World Wide Web, but there was DARPANet, and there were chat rooms, and they published what was, in general terms, what was on the NSA's desk, and that brought the FBI and the CIA to SRI instantly.
Right.
Within 24 hours. How did you know about this? How did you break our security and break into Fort Meade? And then when the CIA and the FBI found out that these guys never left Palo Alto, California in the past 6 months, there's no way they broke into Fort Meade. And they were remote viewing. And it took weeks for the government to recognize that this is legitimate.
And then Pat Price ends up dead. They ended up cremating his body and then calling his wife.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Some people wondered if he even was dead, that they just snuck him off to make him work for them. I don't think.
Remember Pat Price was really good. He was really detailed. Right. Remember the case of the Russian or the American spy that was, I think, in London. He was getting off a bus, and a Russian spy had an umbrella with a poison tip.
Right.
and stabbed him with the ricin gas,
Mm-hmm.
and the ricin killed him. And it was just a little pinprick. And
then the CIA admitted the heart attack gun.
The heart attack gun. And Pat Price, suddenly out of nowhere, he's in Vegas. He bumps into a guy in the lobby of the hotel, and the guy apologizes with a Russian accent. And then presto, that evening, Pat Price has a heart attack and he's dead the next day.
I mean, the good chances are your enemies would take out you. CIA recruited them. The Russians know about it because they talk about in that Third Eye Spies how the Russians were trying to get close to people at SRI and trying to find out more information. That they're like, hey, the Americans have this guy who's dead on. He's dead on. He can see whatever. And their immediate task now is take him out before he sees something that we don't want the Americans to know. They believed in it that much. That tells you how much the Russians believe it. Speaking of the Russians, I mean, did you learn anything from their remote viewing techniques that differed from the American, SRI?
Oh yeah, they were real nice people. They were really good guys. Most of them started with the KGB as remote viewers to find missing persons. And even most of the Stargate people, when I talk to them and I tell them, we use it to find missing people, and they go, oh, you can't see anyone that small. And that's because they're trained to find
military installations. They're big.
Yeah, a big submarine base or whatever. But if you talk to Dr. Edwin May, who ran Stargate for over 20 years, he'll tell you right off he laughs and he says, that's because that's how they were trained. They had to look for something big. But you train your people to look for things that are small, and that's why it works for you. But, and that is so true. Our training is a little different. But yeah, I've talked to a couple of the Stargate people, and they're telling me, no, you're lying. It can't happen.
No.
Well, I got 100 families that'll argue with you. And, but they were trained differently, and we're trained to read crime scenes. I don't care if you're a federal agent, a special agent with the federal government, if you're a homicide detective or you're a private investigator, there isn't a detective alive that doesn't walk a crime scene. And in the back of their mind, they're singing that 1989 Cher song, if I could turn back time, I could solve this crime. And when at CSI Psi, I teach you to turn back time, and you become a fly on the wall when that crime happens. So you know exactly what happens. But getting back to the Soviets for a minute, I think this is awfully interesting. It was said that the world would not be won by weapons, but by a qualitatively new human being who would be close to God, a human with cosmic consciousness. Now, we
this
would
is what
usually
the Russians
think
saw?
that was a statement made. It wasn't by a priest. It wasn't by a philosopher, but it was by the chief of the general staff of the Soviet Army. And this is how we've been raised on the Hollywood version of what the KGB is. But when I talk to these KGB people, why'd you join the KGB? I wanted to help my people. Just like why do cops become cops here in the United States? They want to help their people. And the actual people, the people of the Soviet Union, they have a good heart. And if you walk within walking distance of the Kremlin, as much as we hear about their godless society, the government was godless, but the people, there are 12 churches within walking distance of the Kremlin. So it isn't a godless society in Russia. It was a godless government. And one of the other interesting things is when their Cold War remote viewing shut down, they didn't, most of the remote viewers ended up working in hospitals doing diagnosis and treatment because they learned their skill to help people.
Now, have you guys tried any of that when it comes to remote viewing a person's body or to try to find something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to wonder, because one of the earliest people I've ever was fascinated with since my childhood, my mom had this book on Edgar Cayce. And I always found it fascinating how, in his whatever hypnotic trance, he'd seem to just like scan a body and be able to just tell you whatever's in it. Actually, I had Barry Taff on, who worked for UCLA on their remote viewing program back in the 70s and as a paranormal investigator. And he has that ability, a natural ability to just like look at somebody and like literally tell them you have this here and here and this is your problem. Like he's had it since his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, do you experiment with that?
All the time. What part of the CSI training course is to probe a sentient being, and that's one of the things. If you see a sentient being in your ACE, you then go in and probe that sentient being to find out, is that person alive? What kind of condition are they injured? And you can also then determine, you can probe their abdomen and find out their liver is in failure. You can probe their left upper chest and find out their heart is beating, but it's beating erratically. You can probe their brain and determine that they have brain damage because there may be a head injury or something. So yeah, that's part of the course when I teach the CSI side. That's part of what we do.
It kind of sounds like you some of your remote viewing sessions, are you like guiding people? Like, tell me now, what do you see here? Boom. Tell me now what you see here. Like, are you guiding people sometimes doing this?
No, I don't want to contaminate them. I let them.
You just let them do it.
You do your thing and then you call me. And a lot of them were, I'll send you a text message. No, I don't want a damn text message. Talk to me and tell me what your ACE is. Talk to me. This way, if they say something and I have a question, I can ask them a question right there. What do you mean? The only thing they can text me is a GPS location, or they can text me a picture that they got off of the sketch artist software. This is the bad guy. This is what we got. And the Texas Rangers, when we gave them the sketch of the woman that we were looking for, they knew exactly who we were looking for. They said, "How did you come up with her?" "Oh, we remote view. Have you been in Texas?" I said, "I haven't been in Texas in 5 years, but we've been tracking her for 18 months. We first identified her in Iowa, then in Kansas, then in Missouri, Louisiana, and she's been running, and she's been hanging out at a bar in Silsbee, Texas, outside of Beaumont." And the Texas Rangers called me back next day and said, "Yeah, we saw her over at Silsbee. We got an eye on her."
You could help find fugitives. I mean, that are right now there. I mean, the FBI's got a thing up, most wanted. Have you guys ever took a shot at a fugitive, somebody that they are like already looking for?
We did 2 off of the, not the FBI most wanted list, because the FBI doesn't work and play well with others.
Right.
But we did ICE. We busted a guy in Monroe, Michigan. They had been looking for him for 3 years, and I found him in 4 hours. And I called. He's on the ICE most wanted list. I called the ICE hotline and said, "This is where he's at. He's at this motel in Monroe, Michigan." "Oh, we thought he was still in Detroit." "Nope, he's in Monroe now, and this is where he's at." They went. They staked out the hotel. Saw him come in. They raided the place and they busted him. And we've been tracking a guy. What we're having a lot of problems with is a lot of these human traffickers are hiding out in sanctuary cities in California because ICE isn't allowed in there.
Right. This is the problem. We're not trying to get political here, people, but this is the problem. Is that you can't have 2 different law enforcement agencies working against each other like this. There are bad people. It doesn't have anything to do if they're supposed to be in this country or not. They're just bad. They're bad people. We do have to get. There are bad people involved. Nobody should be able to deny that within the legal aliens being here or not, there are bad people within that have snuck their way in that we do have to find.
I said he was in San Diego. We remote viewed him and said no, he's up in San Francisco. And ICE goes, "Yeah, but we're not allowed in San Francisco either." And I said, "We'll keep an eye on him. I'll be in touch." 2 days later, I called ICE back. I go, "He was doing a road trip. He's in Carson City, Nevada."
Oh, wow.
The guy, he was like a kid in a candy store. "Ooh, we can go into Nevada." And so, yeah, the guy was going from Carson City to Reno, and they nailed him.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, we don't get into politics here or anything like that, but it's frustrating to know that there are monsters that are using this whole political debate to get away with horrible things.
They are.
I mean, just look at the guy. I can't think of his name now. The guy they're finding has killed a ton of people. He's got a funny name. Was it Little? Was his last name Little? No, something like that. John Little, the serial killer. They just he went forever getting away with murders all over the country because he was homeless half the time. He had no he had no fingerprints anywhere. You know what I'm saying? He was off the grid. And it's just, he was an American citizen, but that's how it works. When people are off the grid, they're not going to a steady job or whatever, like he was. He'd literally kill a person and get out of town.
And part of the thing is, and this again has nothing to do with politics, on TV or in the movies, different jurisdictions communicate really well. In the real world, they don't. So when a guy jumps jurisdiction, he's lost.
Oh yeah,
he's in a whole new system. So it's really, and in all fairness, there's so many crazy things that go on out there, and the reality is law enforcement just doesn't have the resources to keep tabs on everything, and that's why I use Neighborhood Watch. And
it was Samuel Little. Thank you, William, in the chat room. That I knew it was something little. It was, but yeah, FBI say there's 50 active serial killers. I think working right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I fear that it's more in this world.
Yeah,
I really fear that it's more.
Is.
And we're breeding monsters. People that just, they're complete narcissistic sociopaths that don't care for anybody and are able to operate functionally operate and get away with these things. The Samuel Little he's having to draw pictures of people he's trying to, remember to tell, all they have are these pictures, and I think her name was this, and he draws a picture. These cases are going to go unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good one for you. Is all the Samuel Little cases are trying to put together right now.
Yeah, and as much as I want to give closure to all the cold cases, it's just really hard. We had I got a call on a cold case a couple of weeks ago. This woman she went missing 2 years ago. A year later, she was declared legally dead in Pennsylvania, and the family had been looking for her body. And the family was giving up because mom was dying of cancer, and they had hoped they could get closure for mom. Yeah. But they had spent 2 years looking for her. And so I said, I'll take a look at the case. And I remote viewed, and I said, here's the GPS location where her body's at. Now, I had the case for 24 hours. I called the family, gave them the GPS location. They went out the next day to that GPS location, and they found the body.
Wow.
And so they
found
got
it themselves personally. That's wow. They had to be pretty convinced. Well, we got to go to our last commercial break. And I heard in there you remote viewed that. You did that?
Yeah, I do a lot of the remote viewing. Sometimes we just can't get a hold of the team. They're just not all available.
We'll talk about your own personal experiences remote viewing. I'm interested to hear that when we come back after this commercial break. And the phone lines are still open, guys. 219-230-4444. Skype ID OOJBland00. Call in. Tell us about your own experiences. Ask a question of Dr. Kennedy. Zach, your call was awesome. You went down two paths I definitely wanted to go down to tonight talking about. Zach always has great questions. But call in, guys. We'll be back after the short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Phantasm, the film that puts the fun in funeral. And as for a fiendish story, it does have a berry of a plot. Come prepared to scream, because if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead. Phantasm from Avco Embassy Pictures. Rated R under 17, not admitted without parent or guardian.
Hello, midnight preview tonight, UA Westwood Theater.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDiff.net.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
Tonight, we've been talking to Dr. Chuck Kennedy, founder of Project Psi, about remote viewing, psychic abilities, mapping the brain. As a neuroscientist, he's able to use an EKG and look at the different parts of the brain and see a certain area of the brain that is related to psychic ability, and even tell when somebody's using their psychic ability over their imagination. I think that's a powerful device to be able to differentiate that. It can mean a lot of things. Maybe even use with Talk Tonight. Has he ever used that EKG to help somebody tune into their ability? That'd be an idea to have if that's possible. But the phone lines are open right now. I got somebody waiting on hold. Just wait on. But the phone lines are open, 219-230-4444. Skype ID OOJBland00. Just call in after you hear the other person hang up. We are taking phone calls this last half hour. Love to hear your questions tonight. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Still hanging in there with me, Dr. Kennedy?
I am. Just real quickly, I just want to make a small correction there. It's not EKG. EKGs are heart monitors.
Not
it's
EKG.
EEG, which is electroencephalogram.
I should know that. My mom worked in the medical field. Yes, EGG. I always get the EKG and EGG mixed up. But looking at the person's brain with have you ever been able to help somebody tune in to their ability by hey, no, that's your imagination, or hey, no, you need to tune. You're tuning in. You got it. Ever used it to help develop a biofeedback kind of way?
Yeah, I had a psychic that was psychic but also imaginative.
Right.
And I needed to keep her focused, and so I helped using the what I call the Wayback Machine. I wired her up, and then when she was working on communicating with a spirit, when she was right on, she'd start out real good, and then she'd wander off. And so when she'd start to wander off, and I'd see things go from her left temporal lobe to her right cingulate gyrus, I go, no, back up. You're getting off track here. You're going in the wrong direction. And so this helped guide her. And she was an amazing psychic when she learned to focus. Well,
I could see that being a way to help somebody learn. They would be able to go, wait, when I feel this way, that's it. I'm on it. I'm in the knowing. But when it's this is my imagination. To help them start to differentiate between the two. Mm-hmm. I could see that as a very powerful tool. Like I said, like a biofeedback, basically, so they're able to get an idea of when they are in tune with it.
Yeah, it works out pretty well. It was very interesting.
Well, just imagine if you had much more money and MRIs or even a bunch of EEGs to do this. That you could use it as a way to help train and develop more people to be able to do use the ability. I mean, this is why, like I said, you're a man after my own heart, because there needs to be more of this happening. We need to be more money and more research done on this.
And I agree. And part of the thing, and that's an interesting concept, getting the money for research. There is not a lot of grant money out there for paranormal.
Right.
And even if you are a true researcher, and you find somebody that's going to put out a grant, they put out a grant for something they are interested in, not necessarily something you want to go after. So you don't get to pick and choose what you want to study.
Right.
Even this weekend at the Paracon, there was a guy telling me that, I need to take appeal for donations. And I go, the thing about donations is people, when they donate money to you, they think they own you.
Yeah.
And I've liked the autonomy all along to be able to go after what I want to go after. And I don't owe anybody or anything to anybody. And so it works out pretty well this way. I'm not anybody's puppet just because they gave me money.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. We do have someone waiting on the phone line when I get to their call here. 807 area code. Who do we got?
Hi, Jason and Dr. Chuck. It's Laura Lee.
Hi, Laura Lee. Thanks for calling in.
Laura Lee, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. Everybody's loving you in the chat room.
Oh, good.
I was saying that you've got groundbreaking work. I've told you that. You're a person after my own heart, too, because I just love what you're doing. But we had a question in the chat room. I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to answer, but I'm going to ask it. Somebody asked, if you have pain, does it affect psychic ability? I'm going to share with you what my answer was. I said, you're doing a study right now with psychics and autoimmune issues. And I know myself being a chronic pain sufferer, I don't find it's an issue, but I think it has to do with belief, because she had somebody that was a psychic tell her, if you've got pain, you can't use your abilities. And I believe it's all about what you believe. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are,
Well,
what you found in your research.
We just lost him. Hold on.
Okay.
Figures. Calling him back.
Okay. Because it's my house.
Jason, you there?
Yeah, we lost you.
Cell phones are not a proven technology. Laura Lee's taking the CSI Psi class, so yeah, she knows which way I'm going to go on that. Part of the thing, I've got this big study now on autoimmune conditions, and most autoimmune conditions are chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia is very painful, and it will disrupt your psychic ability. However, part of the thing is the chronic. When you have chronic pain, you learn to live with it. So you adjust for it. And where you stub your toe on the coffee table tonight and it hurts like the dickens, that's not something you planned on. So that's a distraction.
Right.
And that's going to mess with you.
That's an acute thing.
Right. And so all of that's going to kind of change depending on what's going on. But chronic pain, when you learn to live with it, you kind of, you never accept it, but you know it's going to be there. And it's just like some of the medications that'll affect remote viewing.
Oh, yeah.
When you take these medications all the time, you learn to adjust for that. And it's not a problem. But if you've never had that medication before and suddenly you take it, it's going to mess with your brain. And that goes as simple as a cold medicine or an allergy medicine, because most antihistamines are osmotic diuretics and they pull fluid out of your brain, and your brain just doesn't function as well. And Laura Lee's a nurse. She knows what I'm talking about. And, but if you take Benadryl every day, well, you get used to it. And even the lethargy of Benadryl, if you take it every day, you learn to accept that fog, and that's just who you are, and you deal with it. So the pain, chronic pain, you can overcome, but acute pain, like she said, acute pain, that's a distraction, and that's going to mess with your abilities.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, because they had asked, actually, it was more leaning towards chronic pain, because the other thing that I really like that you talked about, and I apologize, I didn't get on here till the first hour, you may have addressed it. You were talking about, even before, as a psychic doing readings, having something with sugar, which I thought was it's ingenious. Not too much sugar, you said, but just a little bit of sugar.
We didn't get into that.
No.
In the first hour, we talked about all the biometrics that I measured. And one of the interesting things about that is we found that I would ask psychics, when you do a reading, how do you physically feel? And they go, well, if it's a long reading or a back-to-back reading, I'm weak, I'm dizzy, I'm lethargic, and I got a headache and those kind of things. And I said, that sounds like dehydration and low blood sugar. So we started treating all the psychics with a can of pop, not diet pop, because diet pop's a diuretic, but just regular soda pop or orange juice or apple juice. And the fluid would keep them from getting dehydrated, and the sugar would keep their sugar in balance. Because after testing 700 psychics, I found that a half hour into a psychic reading or a remote viewing, even if they're not psychic, a remote viewing, that a half hour in, the average viewer will lose their blood sugar by 24.3 points.
Wow.
And that's a significant drop.
Wonder what
when Harvard School of Medicine, Harvard wanted to see, because the human brain is about 3 pounds, it's about 2% of our body weight, and yet it consumes 30% of our sugar, 30% of our oxygen. So what would make that work harder? Can somebody thinking really hard actually use more sugar?
Right.
So Harvard School of Medicine looked at that and they said, what can we find that's really active? And they decided high school kids taking SATs. So they checked high school kids, and they were so amazed because high school kids doing SATs, their blood sugar would drop 6-7 points while doing an SAT. Well, hell, our psychics are losing 24 points in a half hour.
Wow.
And that's really, really significant. And again, this was more than 700 psychics. So it's a pretty valid point.
That makes sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wanted to call in. I had to say hi. I love that you're on here. Great show, Jason, as always. I'll get off in case someone else wants to call. But awesome show. Thanks for answering my questions, Dr. Chuck.
Take care, Laura. It was good talking with you again.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Laura Lee.
Okay. Hey, keep practicing.
Nope. She'll hear it on the replay. But yeah, practice makes perfect, right? I mean, it
does. Yeah, she took the course about 2 weeks ago, and
what are there some common daily practice routines people should do if they're trying to develop this?
Well, the course has a couple of things. There's image streaming, and then and I can't do image streaming without showing you what image streaming is.
Yeah.
And then there's the practice cases. You got to do the practice cases. And she came up with, I think she did the Mount Rushmore, and I forget the other one she came up with. But yeah, she did some practice cases, but she hasn't given me anything in about a week, and so she's slacking off.
Oh,
and,
Laura Lee, you better get with it.
Yeah, get back on it.
There's a question for the chat room. I think it's something we need to get into too. Laura Lee mentioned too is they said, speaking of medical conditions, is from William. Speaking of medical conditions, has he found any correlations with medical issues and higher odds of people displaying signs of ability? And you have. Laura Lee brought it up as the autoimmune deficiency
right
aspect. What are you discovering with that?
What it appears to me, because I only did about 800, I surveyed about 800 psychics last year, and 87.3% have been officially diagnosed as having an autoimmune condition. This doesn't mean they read about it on Facebook.
Right.
It's an official diagnosis. And of the 13% that didn't, 10% exhibited signs and symptoms of an autoimmune condition. However, they didn't. They've never had it been officially diagnosed. So I'm guessing that the actual number is going to be in about 93% of psychics have an autoimmune condition. Now you look at the general population, and 13% of the population has an autoimmune condition. So why the hell are 90% of psychics have an autoimmune condition?
Right.
And I'm looking at that the connection seems to be, we know 94% of psychics are female. We know that it gets passed down from grandmother to mother to daughter and so forth. That to me is a mitochondrial DNA condition. Not a nuclear DNA like you always see on TV, but a mitochondrial DNA, which is in the powerhouse of all cells. And your mitochondrial DNA is a maternal lineage. And so your nuclear DNA is, 12 alleles from your father, 12 alleles from your mother, and presto, that's who you are. Right. And that's why you're a little different than your brother, because they got different alleles than you got. But the mitochondrial DNA, your mitochondrial DNA is, whether you're male or female, your mitochondrial DNA is identical to your mother, is identical to your grandmother, and right down the line. So that's pretty powerful. And that's where, and I'm finding that more and more autoimmune conditions are being transferred through mitochondrial DNA. So I'm tending to think that the the psychic ability is also transferred in mitochondrial DNA, and I'm trying to find that link, and then find that link and see what came first, the chicken or the egg. Did you have psychic ability first, or did you have an autoimmune condition first?
Right.
And if so, when you have an autoimmune flare-up, how does that affect your psychic ability? And so these are the things we're digging into. I've got the actual survey on the Project Psi website. So if you're psychic and you want to take the survey, please do. The more the merrier. Go to Project Psi. Project Psi, the P is silent, just like everyone's favorite dinosaur, the pterodactyl. The P is silent. ProjectPsi.com. And it says psychic survey. Please take the survey. Jason, you're like a little bit pregnant. You're a little bit gifted. Probably more gifted than you're willing to admit.
Well, I've talked about it more on the show. I've opened up more over the years about what my, the stuff I've had happen to me and abilities, and my interest in developing it. That's why I've been so looking forward to having you on, is learning more about it.
Yeah, well, you definitely need to take the survey too, and so that you can get your information out there. Because I'll bet when you look at it, you look at the different autoimmune conditions, everything from rheumatoid arthritis to fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue.
I have psoriasis and possibly psoriatic arthritis.
Yeah, there you go. 2 autoimmune conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the link too.
And I would have gotten it from my grandmother on my mother's side.
There you go.
She had also she passed away from Alzheimer's, actually.
And that's not an autoimmune condition.
No, it isn't.
That they've been identified yet. But yeah, the other stuff is, and so you need to take the survey too. And for the psychics out there, and this whole little bit psychic, like a little bit pregnant, eventually you're going to stop calling them coincidence and realize just how powerful you are. And you're going to start to use your powers to be able to help others. And you're just going to, whether you personally, Jason, or your listeners, you're going to find out just how amazing you actually can be.
Well, this is why I started last week. We did a psychic development night. We did the Zener cards. I did tarot readings. Bill did tarot readings. Jamie did oracle reading. We all, and then I let the audience do it. I let the audience call in and try to do a reading, and they were participating in the chat room because I want to what my dream for this show was to have an open forum for everybody to, explore the paranormal together. And what better way than developing your own psychic abilities? We're going to probably do more of that next Sunday is our Halloween show, our 200th episode. And I had so much fun last Sunday doing the psychic games that I want to do some more of it on our Halloween show. Do you have any suggestions or something for us to do?
Well, they used to do the weather. What's the weather in Paris like right now? But that was before the internet.
Right.
So now it's easy to just, the Zener cards are good. The Zener cards were used by Ingo Swann and a couple of, they put a psychic on a submarine and that was going under the Arctic Circle.
Right, I remember this.
Now the Arctic Circle, a submarine doesn't have radio contact for like 2 weeks. So they picked a time and place and they did the Zener card experiment and they nailed it. So yeah, you could do the Zener card on the radio, and what wouldn't be bad to just ask people to describe their experiences, and I think when other people hear their experiences, they'll realize that they had experiences also, and more people will awaken to it. And I think that would be pretty powerful.
One of the things I tried to get them to do, like during commercial break, and we didn't get too much from it, but I want to try again. Is I tried people to do like like I said, the quick thought, the first thought that comes to your mind, stream of consciousness kind of thing, but like connecting to somebody else that's in the chat room's loved one. You know, I was trying to tell everybody, like, get their loved ones to go out and reach out to others, and let's try to see if we can all like pick up on something. And I don't know if anybody did or not, but you know, I was trying to get people to do stream of consciousness. If people try to do like go with their first thought, like what is the best way of doing that, just for a beginner or somebody to try to like do that, you know, like I said, go with that first thought, that ACE.
Yeah, just go with, and that's really the best thing, is to just go with you. Trust your first thought, and what the first thing that pops in your mind, build on it. Don't exaggerate or don't embellish, but just take that first thought and develop it so that you have a detailed, cohesive thought, and try to maybe your studio, have them try to describe your studio.
Yeah, that can't do that. I put too many pictures up of my studio, but I've been thinking of an object, because me and my wife used to play these games together. That's why I love my wife, my beautiful wife. Is when we first started dating, we're both into this. We both were open to these ideas. We would play little psychic games with her. And I remember one time I had her draw a picture, not show me. And then I tried to like see the picture that she drew in my mind, and I was damn close, man. And it was all just because I made it was black and white, and I just could see I could almost feel the lines more than see them. It was weird, and I just kind of drew out lines on a piece of paper, and like, is this what you drew? And it was like really close to what she drew.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, and that just because I felt like we had that telepathic communication, we were getting really intense in our early relationship. You know
what you guys got to start practicing is, when you have a dream, try to share your dream with her. So then when you wake up in the morning,
we already had that experience. Yes, it's really weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had that a couple times in our life where I was like, I had this weird dream, and I was a little bit, and she's like, oh my God, that was my dream last night, and that's a memory actually you're seeing. And she's like, tell me more, and she's like, oh my God. She's, you know, like, you know, we've done it a couple times. Yeah. You know, you share, I think the, you know, easiest thing for people to begin with is somebody close to them, right? Because there's this connection.
Yeah. You've kind of learned to think similar, and that's a great place to start. And then you can expand into other areas.
Well, maybe I'll find something like a remote viewing target for the show that night for people to try to get. Maybe I got to think of something.
No, you got to remember that a remote viewing target is only 8 numbers. I mean, that's what, and I wish we had video. I could show you what I mean. But when the forensic remote viewers, when they get a case, all they get is an 8-digit number.
Now, what's the 8-digit number? Just the a coordinate, or what is it?
It's basically today's date. What's today's is today the 20th? Yeah,
21st now.
21st. Okay. If we got a case right now, it'd be 10/21.1901. And if I get a case in an hour, it'd be 10/21/1902. It'd be the second case of the day. But all they get is that 8-digit number, and then they run with it, and they'll sit there, and you should see. You need to take the course, and you can see how give me a call sometime, and we'll set that up.
Okay.
And the thing is, you'll see some of the results that these viewers have done, and all they had was an 8-digit number. They didn't even know it was a missing person case. They don't know what it is.
They don't know what they're even looking at or looking for, but then they get it.
Mm-hmm. And that's that's mind blowing. Then when I was studying the remote viewers at Emory University down in Atlanta, they would use the same case ID for every case. And they still knew the difference.
It really has nothing to do with the number. It's just like the intent.
The intent, exactly. That is even more mind blowing when you realize that it's all about the intent and what they're doing, and that's how they're closing their cases. But I always say at Project Psi, we're the most elite team of remote viewers on the planet, because nobody's doing the detailed work that we're doing. I've been on a couple of message boards and a couple of Facebook groups for remote viewers, and they're doing all this esoteric stuff, and we're finding missing kids.
Well, so, I remember there was a certain, I won't say who, a certain military remote viewer used to be on Art Bell all the time, and I'd be like, I'd turn it off, because they'd be like, all this stuff he's saying, like some of this, like none of the stuff he predicted ever came true. And then he would always have some asinine reason why. And then it was always like esoteric stuff like the devil. And I'm like, dude, I mean, none of that could be proven. Why we would just listen to, I don't know if I'm listening to your imagination or something that's real, because there's nothing that can ever be proven from what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's one of the first things about remote viewing is always identify a target that's verifiable. People will ask, can you see the backside of the moon? And I go, yeah, but if I told you, would you know I'm right or wrong?
Yeah, I can tell you
anything. And that's really important. Yeah. But I know who you're talking about, and he actually worked about a year and a half ago down in Austin. There was the UPS bombers.
Yes,
these bombs were going off. Yeah. We broke that case, and that military guy was in left field. So I enjoyed that. But.
Well, I'll go listen to Art Bell reruns, and I'll hit it, and I'll be like, and it's nope. I'm not listening to that because I've heard enough of it, and there's been a lot of that. There's definitely people that give it a bad name, when they do stuff like that. It's like, if you're going to do it, don't go out there with all this esoteric stuff that doesn't prove nothing. And, and he did make predictions. None of them, I don't think, ever came true. I don't think we'd even be here if they had he had to lose Dr. Doom. And
it just really bugs me the way he always talks in all this military speak.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Some people cashed in after it, I guess.
Yeah.
What was your? I know we're almost over. I want to see. What was your thoughts of the movie Men Who Stare at Goats? You had to have seen it.
I didn't actually see it, but I'm
shocked.
Here's part of the thing about that. Yeah, that was part of the Stargate program. So the critics put down all of the Stargate program because the staring at goats thing didn't work.
Right.
Okay, so math is a lie because we haven't found Riemann's hypothesis yet. We've never been able to solve P versus NP. So therefore, nothing in math works.
Right.
Because
you're going to do this one thing.
Other failures. Yeah. And
but that just shows what the military was. What they did. That's why it's so wrong in the military's hands, because they look at objectives and one thing, one mission: let's kill or spy, and that's it. I don't care about anything else.
Yeah, and they often the critics will often sit there and try to put everything down because what you're doing is only theory. And I go, well, actually, gravity is only a theory, but I don't see you jumping off any roofs.
Yeah, exactly. But theory and practice is what you're doing. You're putting it to practice.
Yeah. The local grocery store in my town is 4 doors down from me. So I'm in there a couple times a week, and they all know me, and they know what I do. And so when I go in, how many kids are you up to, And there's always some clown in line that says, oh, there's no such thing as psychics. And I go, okay. What's your name, sir? He goes, James. I go, okay, James. What do you do for a living? And he goes, I'm an insurance agent. And I laugh, and I go, that's cute. I know that's what you say at parties and backyard barbecues, but what do you really do for a living? And he goes, I'm an insurance adjuster. And I laugh some more, and I go, there's no such thing as insurance adjusters. And he goes, how can you say that? I go, because we can all block out anything we want to block out. I've got 100 families that'll tell you you're crazy because their child is alive today. So I don't believe in insurance adjusters. So tell me again, what is it you really do? I'm an insurance adjuster. And the guy got all flustered and he left his cart and ran out of the store. And then the store was pissed at me because he left his cart full of groceries. But
can't scare away business.
But the thing is, I used to argue with people, and now I just...
it's not worth your time.
It's more fun. Yeah. have more fun trying to embarrass them.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I definitely want to get you back on. I want to get you back on. I'd love to get into the JFK EVPs. I would love that. I'd love to hear them because I'm a huge EVP person. That's my bread and butter for the paranormal because investigation. So I'd love to get into that.
Yeah, forensic EVPs are really cool. One of the cool things about forensic EVPs is when I started doing them, and then I was having such huge success with EVPs. And I asked one of the spirits I talk to regularly, I go, why am I suddenly getting such great results? And he goes, the spirits trust you now. So that's important. For all the ghost hunters out there, the most important thing you can do is get the spirits to trust you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely agree on that. Well, thank you again, Dr. Kennedy. My
pleasure.
We'll definitely get you back on again. I definitely have to do this again. And we'll talk. I definitely would like to learn from Project Psi and develop my own abilities. So I'll have to give you a call. We'll have to talk soon. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. All right, guys. Next Sunday is our 200th episode and our Halloween show. Is this the 4th annual Halloween or 5th annual? Because we're almost into our 5th year. So 4th annual Halloween show. Yes, 4th, right? Yes, 4th annual 200th episode. Come with us. We're going to do ITC, Spirit Box Communication. We're going to do psychic games. I'll do tarot readings because I want to give it another shot. If Bill's coming on, I hope he might do some tarot readings. Jamie might do an oracle card reading. We'll play psychic games and we'll do ITC. We'll do all of the above because it's a big party hanging out next Sunday. And of course, joining us, Katrina Cooper, who we talked about tonight, and Rhodey Speak will be joining us. They are always here for the Halloween show. They told me they'll be here, so they'll be joining us as well. I'm sure Katrina might do some readings as well for some people on the phone, but we got to make them short. But see you next week, guys. Same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Specific time. See you then. Have a great night.